He dumped a poor black girl and married a wealthy white heiress, claiming love could never pay the bills. 10 years later, she returned as a millionaire and bought the company keeping his family alive. Everyone wanted her to destroy him, but was it justice or had success turned her into the same kind of person at 5:47 every morning? Before Chicago's elevated trains began shaking the windows of South Vernon Avenue, Nia Carter poured coffee for people who understood what it meant to count every dollar twice. Bell's Corner Cafe was already alive beneath its fluorescent lights. Construction workers crowded the counter. Nurses ending overnight shifts occupied the booths by the windows. A bus driver unfolded his newspaper beside a plate of eggs. He would eat in less than 4 minutes. Nia knew nearly every customer by name. Mr. Alvarez wanted 2 sugars but claimed to use none whenever his doctor was present. Patricia from St. Matthews ordered tea during the final week of every month because it cost 60 cents less than coffee. Walter, an elderly crossing guard, always requested extra toast and quietly carried half of it outside to a stray dog. Nia noticed details. She had learned that people revealed themselves through the things they assumed no one important would see. That morning, however, her attention kept returning to the cracked phone hidden beside the cash register. Her boyfriend had not answered her messages. "You're going to burn a hole through that screen," Frank Bell said. The cafe's owner stood beneath the kitchen window with his arms folded across a stained apron. He was a broad man in his late 50s, with a gray mustache and the suspicious expression of someone who had spent 30 years listening to customers insist they had already paid. "I am checking the time," Nia replied. "There's a clock above your head. It runs 4 minutes slow. I set it 4 minutes fast. Then it's 8 minutes wrong." Frank stared at her. "College has made you dangerous. That's the plan?" Nia picked up 2 plates and carried them toward a booth. Her phone vibrated before she returned. The message was from her 16-year-old brother, Marcus. "Marcus. Mom says don't forget her prescription, Nia. I want Marcus. She says it isn't urgent. Nia. Which means it's urgent. Marcus. Exactly. Nia opened her banking application. After rent, groceries, and Marcus' school fee, she had $104.73. Her mother's prescription cost $86. The remaining amount had to cover transportation and food until Friday. Every life had its own mathematics. For Nia, love was measured in bus fares, medicine, and how many hours a person could remain awake before exhaustion became dangerous. Her phone vibrated again. This time, Ethan Whitmore's name appeared. "Ethan, sorry. Dad kept me late. Can we meet tonight?" Nia's frustration weakened at once. Ethan had that effect on her. Even through a screen. They had been together for almost 2 years. He was the heir to Whitmore Development, one of Chicago's oldest family-owned real estate companies. He wore tailored suits, drove cars whose maintenance cost more than Nia's tuition, and had never entered a grocery store wondering whether his card would be declined. Yet when they were alone, those differences seemed to disappear. He listened to her ideas. He admitted fears he shared with no one else. Whenever his father dismissed him, Ethan came to Nia's small kitchen and asked what she thought. "I need your brain." He would say that it had once sounded affectionate. Recently, Nia had begun wondering whether he needed anything else. "Nia, I work at Evelyn's until 7. Ethan, Whitmore office at 7:30. I need your brain." Nia smiled despite herself. "Nia, send me the updated property information." First. 3 dots appeared, vanished, then returned. "Ethan, can't you estimate?" "Nia, I can invent numbers if that's what your father prefers." "Ethan, please don't start." The smile disappeared. "Please don't start." It was what Ethan wrote whenever she asked a question that made him uncomfortable. Why had she never met his father? Why did Ethan take her to restaurants in her neighborhood but never to the country club where he entertained investors? Why did his social media show every part of his life except her? Each time Nia raised the subject, Ethan said she was looking for conflict. Each time, she questioned whether he might be right. Frank rang the service bell, although he was standing only a few feet away. "Your brain is currently employed here." Nia placed the phone face down. "Yes, Sir. And table 6 is waiting. They arrived 30 seconds ago." 33. "You counted?" "No, but it sounded authoritative." For the rest of her shift, Nia focused on the customers. She refilled cups, delivered plates, corrected 2 invoices, and persuaded a supplier not to charge Frank twice for the same delivery. 88. Frank handed her a white envelope. "You're $14 over." Nia said after counting her pay. You're welcome. For what? The raise. You said you couldn't afford raises. That I can't. Then why? Because Mary quit, so you're doing her work too. And if I continue paying you nothing, another restaurant will steal you. $14 won't stop them. IT might slow you down. Nia slipped the money into her bag. Thank you. Frank wiped a spotless section of the counter. How's your mother? She says she's fine. That wasn't what I asked. Nia looked away. The doctor changed her medication. He wants more tests. Insurance. Still deciding which words in the policy mean they don't have to pay. Frank nodded. Take some soup home. Shell know you gave it to me. Tell her we made too much. She knows you never make too much. Then lie better. The extra $14 would pay part of Denise Carter's prescription. IT meant almost nothing in Ethan's world. And Nia's. It mattered. By 9:15, Nia was seated inside a lecture hall at Lakeshore State University. She wore a navy blazer Aunt Evelyn had reconstructed from a man's donated suit. Nobody looking at her would have guessed she had been carrying breakfast plates an hour earlier. That was one of Evelyn's gifts. She could make $10 look like $200, provided the person wearing it stood as though no one had the right to question the difference. Professor Adrian Cole entered and wrote one question on the whiteboard. What makes an idea valuable? Demand. One student called scarcity. Another answered capital, said a young man in the front row. Cole pointed toward Nia.Ms. Carter? Access. She replied. Explained an idea has no market value if its creator cannot reach capital, customers, or legal protection. Someone with access can take the same idea, package it properly, and be called a visionary. A few students turned toward her. And the original creator? Cole asked. Usually gets told they should have moved faster. A murmur crossed the room. Cole smiled because the answer had disturbed people. The market claims to reward innovation, he said. In reality, it often rewards whoever possesses enough power to claim innovation first. Nia wrote the sentence in her notebook. She thought of the proposal she had been developing with Ethan. Whitmore Development was in serious financial trouble. The company owned expensive projects across Chicago, but rising interest rates and poor investments had left it overextended. If a major creditor withdrew its support, hundreds of employees and contractors could lose their livelihoods. Charles Whitmore refused to admit that the company was failing. Ethan had admitted it to Nia late one night at her kitchen table. The Sterling family controls the credit line keeping us alive, he had explained. If Richard Sterling walks away, we will not survive the year. Nia spent several weeks studying Whitmore's public filings. She discovered that the company owned neglected commercial properties in working-class districts. Charles wanted to sell them at a loss. Nia proposed converting the buildings into affordable manufacturing and retail centers for local entrepreneurs, lower rents, shared logistics, local hiring, modest but reliable returns. The plan would not make the Whitmores richer overnight, but it could stabilize the company while creating jobs in neighborhoods traditional investors ignored. Ethan stared at the first completed model as if she had opened a locked door. You designed this in 6 weeks? I lived the research for 22 years. You could save the company. We could build something useful. Ethan kissed her across the kitchen table. You're going to change my life. He whispered that Nia believed he meant they would change it together. Her phone vibrated beneath the lecture desk. Ethan. Did you finish the employment projections? Nia. Almost. I need occupancy, zoning, and maintenance costs. Ethan. I sent revenue reports. Nia. Those aren't the same thing. Ethan. Can you work around it? Nia. If you want accurate projections, no. Several minutes passed before he responded. Ethan. Fine. They'll get the information. Nia turned the phone over. After class. Professor Cole stopped her near the door. There's an entrepreneurship competition next month, he said. $50,000 seed grant. I know. You haven't registered. The entry fee is $200. Fee waivers are available with a faculty nomination. Nia waited. Cole handed her a form. It would be unfortunate if no faculty member recognized your potential. Her face brightened. You're nominating me? Applications close Friday. Thank you. I won't waste it. I didn't nominate you because I wanted gratitude. Why did you? Because half the students entering believe a delivery application qualifies as a personality. Nia laughed as she left. She looked down at the form. $50,000. Enough to transform one of the business ideas in her notebooks into something real. For the first time that morning, the future seemed to open before her. Then her phone rang. The caller identification showed St. Matthew's Hospital. The future closed. Again. Denise Carter answered on the fourth ring. Nia, before you get upset, why is the hospital calling me? They shouldn't have called you. You listed me as your emergency contact. That doesn't mean they should use it every time they feel dramatic. Did you collapse? I became dizzy. Did you fall? I sat down. Before or after you fell? A pause. During. Nia closed her eyes. Students passed around her, talking about internships, lunch, and weekend plans. Their lives continued at a normal speed while hers contracted around the sound of her mother's breathing. Where are you? Observation. I'm coming. You have a presentation. You're in the hospital. And I am surrounded by doctors. You have class. I don't care. Well, I do. One of us spent 20 years cleaning university buildings so the other could attend classes inside them. You are not missing that presentation because I forgot breakfast. Is that what the doctor said happened? He thinks. Is that what he said? Denise did not answer. Nia gripped the phone. It'll come after class. No. Go to Evelyn's. The Robinson wedding dresses must be finished. You want me to sew while you're in the hospital? I want you to stop allowing every emergency to steal the future you're trying to build. Nia leaned against the wall. When can I see you? After 7. It'll bring the prescription. Only if you have enough. I have enough. It was a lie. But one. Nia delivered smoothly. Mothers were not the only people who knew how to hide fear inside practical sentences. Evelyn Brooks' alterations shop occupied a narrow storefront. Between a beauty supply store and a tax office, peeling gold letters covered the window. Evelyn's fine alterations. If it fits your body, it fits your life inside. Bolts of fabric climbed the walls. Half-finished clothes hung from overhead racks, and 3 sewing machines occupied the center table like aging members of an orchestra. Evelyn sat beneath a magnifying lamp, removing lace from a wedding dress 1 stitch at a time. She was not Nia's biological aunt. She had been Denise's closest friend since high school and appointed herself family before Nia learned to speak. You're late. Evelyn said. By 3 minutes. 3 minutes is late when a bride believes polyester is a human rights emergency. Nia placed her bag beneath the table. Evelyn studied her face. What happened? Nothing. I have known you since your head was shaped like a sweet potato. Try again. Mom collapsed at work. Evelyn's hands stopped. She says she's fine. Denise says she's fine when she has a fever. High enough to communicate with the dead. The hospital is running tests. And you came here? She ordered me. That sounds like her. Nia threaded one of the sewing machines. Evelyn watched her. What about the boy? What boy? The one whose name makes you check your phone every 40 seconds. I don't do that. You just did it. Nia placed the phone face down. Ethan invited me to Whitmore's anniversary gala. Did he? Yes. As his girlfriend? Nia did not answer immediately. Evelyn removed her glasses. He wants me there. That was not my question. He said the evening will change everything. It probably will. The tone made Nia stop working. Why can't you be happy for me? Because happiness is not my responsibility. Loving you is. Sometimes those things stand on opposite sides of the room. You don't know Ethan. Whose fault is that? He's under pressure. Pressure reveals structure. Squeeze a strong table and it remains a table. Squeeze cheap wood and it collapses. He isn't cheap wood. Then why have I never met him? You saw him once. I saw the back of his head while he waited in the car. He was late for a meeting. Evelyn made a quiet sound. Nia guided fabric beneath the needle. I am wearing the blue dress Saturday. The one with the square neckline. I changed the back and added your silk panel. And Ethan plans to introduce you to his family? Yes. You hesitated. I didn't. You did. Nia stopped the machine. He is not ashamed of me. Then why? Are you working so hard to prove it? Evelyn rose and placed both hands on Nia's shoulders. There is nothing wrong with loving a man who comes from money. There is nothing wrong with loving someone who has never chosen between medicine and groceries. But there is something wrong with loving a man who treats your presence like a secret he has to manage. He's protecting me from his father. No. He is protecting himself from his father. You don't understand his family, and he does not understand yours, because he has made no effort to join it. Nia looked away. Evelyn's voice softened. I hope I am wrong. I would love to be wrong. I'll wear my best hat and dance at your wedding with both bad knees. A reluctant smile touched Nia's lips. But a man who loves you in private and abandons you in public does not love you, Evelyn continued. He loves the shelter you provide from the person he becomes around everyone else. He hasn't abandoned me, not yet. The words remained between them long after the sewing machine started again at 7:30 that evening. Nia entered Whitmore Development's glass tower. The security guard recognized her and printed a temporary badge. Working late again. Miss Carter. Apparently bankruptcy doesn't keep business hours. He laughed. Although she was not joking. The elevator carried her to the 41st Floor. Ethan stood alone inside a conference room, jacket removed and sleeves rolled to his elbows. Architectural models cast miniature shadows across the polished table. Behind him, the city glittered with the confidence of something too large to fail. When Ethan saw her, relief softened his face. There you are. He crossed the room and kissed her. For one suspended moment, every doubt became distant. Ethan could make the world shrink until only the warmth of his hands and the familiar cedar scent on his collar remained. Then he noticed her expression. What happened? My mother is in the hospital. His hands fell. What? She collapsed at work. Why didn't you tell me? You didn't ask how my day was. The answer came out more sharply than she intended. Ethan stepped back. Nia, I have been drowning all day. And I haven't. I didn't say that. You didn't say anything. He rubbed both hands over his face. I'm sorry. Is she all right? They're running tests. Do you need money? Nia's shoulders stiffened. I need you to ask how she is before trying to solve her. I did ask. After I reminded you. What do you want me to say? I want you to care without requiring instructions. That isn't fair. I know. None of this is. His eyes hardened. There it was. The invisible line Nia was never supposed to cross. She could comfort him, help him, and rebuild the confidence Charles destroyed. But she could not demand too much while Ethan was under pressure. He turned toward the windows. My father is announcing my promotion on Saturday. To what? Chief Operating Officer. Nia's anger paused. That's what you meant when you said the evening would change everything. It's part of it. What's the other part? The Sterling family is increasing its investment. What do they want? Closer alignment between the families. What does that mean? Nothing has been finalized. Ethan. He walked toward the table. Can we focus on the proposal? Nia opened her laptop. The employment projections appeared. The model creates 280 jobs during Phase 1 and 160 permanent positions after launch. It reduces vacancy losses by 19%. Ethan leaned closer. This is incredible. Whose name is going on the presentation? His expression changed. Mine. In presenting IT.is my name anywhere. This isn't a college assignment. No. It's a plan that could save a multimillion-dollar company. Our company. Your family's company. Exactly. I cannot enter a board meeting and say my girlfriend who works at a diner designed our restructuring plan. Silence filled the room. Ethan heard the sentence only after it had escaped. Nia slowly closed the laptop. My girlfriend who works at a diner. That isn't what I meant. IT is exactly what you meant. The board expects established credentials. I am earning a business degree. You haven't completed it. Because I work 2 jobs. I know. Do they? Nia. Do the people using my work know who I am? Ethan approached her. This proposal is a door. If it works, I gain the authority to bring you into the company later. Bring me in to a senior position. I don't want a favor. IT wouldn't be a favor. IT sounds like one. You become the visionary, and I become the girl you discover. I am trying to build a future for us. A future where I create the ideas and you decide when I am respectable enough to stand beside them. His phone rang. The screen showed Olivia Sterling. Neither moved. The call stopped. A message appeared. Olivia. My father confirmed Saturday. Call me before you tell anyone. Ethan turned the phone over. What did he confirm? Nia asked. It's business. What business? I gave my word not to discuss it. To Olivia? To her father. And what did you promise me? Ethan said nothing. Nia placed the laptop in her bag. I need to go. We aren't finished. You have everything you need. Nia. Wait. He caught her hand. Come Saturday, he said. Let me prove you're wrong. About what? About me being ashamed of you. She studied his face. If I come, will you introduce me as your girlfriend? A brief hesitation passed through his eyes. Nia noticed. Then Ethan said, yes. She wanted to believe him. That was the humiliating part. All right. She whispered. Ethan reached into his jacket and removed a narrow black box. Inside was an emerald pendant on a delicate gold chain. I can't accept this. Nia said. It belonged to my grandmother. Her anger weakened. My mother gave it to me for the woman I wanted to wear it. Does she know you're giving it to me? Yes. Does she know who I am? I showed her your picture. The answer felt like evidence that she existed somewhere within his family. Wear it Saturday. Ethan said. Nia touched the emerald. All right. He fastened the necklace around her throat. In the dark window, their reflections stood together above the illuminated city. For one moment, Nia could imagine that the future belonged to both of them. She did not see Ethan close his eyes behind her. She did not see the guilt on his face. And she did not know that Olivia Sterling's father had already confirmed the terms of an engagement Ethan had agreed to 3 weeks earlier, Saturday evening. The Sterling Grand Hotel glowed above Michigan Avenue. Valets opened doors for people wearing more money than most families in Nia's neighborhood earned in a year. Photographers stood behind velvet barriers beneath the Whitmore development emblem. Nia stepped from the black car Ethan had sent. She wore the blue dress Evelyn had altered and the emerald pendant Ethan had given her. The gown fitted perfectly. Her shoulders were straight for once. She did not see a waitress or a struggling student in her reflection. She saw a woman who belonged wherever she chose to stand. Inside, chandeliers scattered light over polished marble. A string quartet played beside the staircase. Waiters moved between guests carrying champagne. Nia approached the registration desk. A blonde hostess smiled. Name? Nia Carter. Guest of Ethan Whitmore. The woman searched the printed list. Her smile remained, but its warmth changed. I don't see a Carter. Please check again. The hostess examined a tablet. I am sorry. Ethan invited me personally. He sent the car that brought me. A security representative approached. Is there a problem? We're confirming Ms. Carter's invitation. I am Ethan Whitmore's guest. Nia said. And we're confirming that. A white couple arrived beside her. The man gave only his surname and was immediately directed inside. Nia watched them pass. You didn't check their names. They're on the list. You didn't look. The security representative positioned himself between Nia and the ballroom doors. Perhaps you have the wrong event. Behind him, a gold sign read, Whitmore Development. 40 years of building the Futurii. Do not have the wrong event. A woman descending the staircase stopped when she saw Nia. She was elegant, silver-haired, and unmistakably related to Ethan. Margaret Whitmore. Her gaze moved to the emerald pendant. Shock crossed her face. You're Nia Carter. My son told me about you. The staff stepped back immediately. Nia looked at the pendant. Ethan said you gave him this. Margaret's face lost its color. He gave that to you? Yes. Before Margaret could respond, applause erupted inside the ballroom. Charles Whitmore's amplified voice reached the lobby. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the future of Whitmore Development. My son, Ethan Whitmore. Nia moved toward the ballroom. Margaret caught her arm. Wait. Why? There are things you don't understand. Then explain them. Another voice sounded through the speakers. Ethan, tonight is not only a celebration of our company's past. It is the beginning of a partnership that will define our future. Nia pulled free and entered. Hundreds of guests faced a raised stage. Charles Whitmore stood behind the podium. Richard Sterling occupied one side. Ethan stood in the center. Beside him was Olivia Sterling. She wore a pale pink gown and rested one hand on Ethan's arm. On the enormous screen behind them appeared Nia's redevelopment proposal. Her employment figures, her model, her words, but only 2 names appeared beneath it. The Whitmore Sterling Community Redevelopment Initiative. Ethan's eyes found Nia at the back of the ballroom. His prepared smile faltered. Olivia followed his gaze. Charles turned toward them. This partnership will unite not only 2 companies but 2 families with a shared vision. The room became impossibly still. It gives me enormous pleasure to announce that Ethan Whitmore and Olivia Sterling are engaged to be married. Applause thundered through the ballroom. Cameras flashed. Olivia raised her left hand, revealing a diamond ring. Nia looked at Ethan. He did not appear surprised. He did not correct his father. He placed his hand over Olivia's and smiled for the cameras. The emerald around Nia's throat suddenly felt heavy enough to pull her to the floor. Someone nearby whispered, asking who she was. Ethan looked directly at Nia for one brief second. Guilt broke through his expression. Then he turned away as if she were no one, as if 2 years could be erased by refusing to acknowledge the woman standing at the edge of the room. Nia reached behind her neck and removed the necklace. Margaret stood several feet away with tears in her eyes. Nia placed the emerald in her hand. Tell your son he left something with me. Margaret closed her fingers around it. What? Nia looked toward the stage and the stolen proposal glowing behind the man she had trusted. My mistake. Then she walked out. Behind her, Charles made one final declaration. This initiative will save Whitmore Development and transform communities across Chicago. Nia stopped outside the ballroom. They had not only discarded her. They intended to build their future using her idea. Ethan believed she was too poor, too powerless, and too invisible to stop them. For the final time that evening, he was wrong. Nia reached the hotel lobby before the first tear escaped. She wiped it away immediately. The second came faster, by the time the revolving doors released her onto Michigan Avenue. The cold had already transformed the moisture on her cheeks into something sharp and punishing. Behind her, the Sterling Grand Hotel glowed like a palace. Music and applause slipped through its doors whenever another guest entered. Chauffeurs waited beneath the awning while valets hurried between luxury cars, and one stopped and one asked why a young black woman in an evening gown was leaving one of Chicago's most important celebrations less than 10 minutes after arriving. Everyone had somewhere more important to look. Nia descended the steps and reached the sidewalk. The car Ethan sent had disappeared. Her wallet contained $23. Most of it was needed for transportation and groceries. Her phone showed missed calls from Aunt Evelyn and a message from Marcus asking for photographs. She could not answer either of them. The wind pressed the thin dress against her legs. Her coat remained inside the hotel, but retrieving it meant returning to the registration desk. It meant facing the hostess who searched for a name no one intended to include and the security representative who assumed she was lost. Nia would rather freeze. A taxi slowed beside her. She kept walking. The next intersection. An enormous digital billboard changed images. A luxury condominium appeared against Chicago's skyline. Whitmore Development, building the future together. Nia stared at the slogan. Together. The word almost made her laugh. Her phone rang in. She watched his name fill the cracked screen. The final second. She answered. What? Nia? Where are you? His voice was quiet and breathless. Music sounded behind him. You know where I'm not. Please don't do this over the phone. Do what? Discover that my boyfriend is engaged. I can explain. Then explain. Not like this. You seemed comfortable explaining it to 400 strangers. It wasn't supposed to happen that way. What part? The engagement or me seeing it? Silence. Nia, was I ever on the guest list? He did not answer. The silence told her everything. You sent a car for me. I wanted to talk to you before the announcement. You wanted me waiting somewhere private while you became engaged in public? My father changed the schedule. Did he also put the ring on Olivia's finger? It's complicated. I don't know. Complicated is working 2 jobs while finishing college. Complicated is choosing between rent and your mother's medicine. Standing beside another woman while your father announces that you're marrying her is clear. I didn't ask for this. You didn't refuse it. You don't understand what's at stake. You keep saying that as if I haven't spent 6 weeks studying everything at stake. This is bigger than our relationship. Then what is it about? I can't have this conversation while people are waiting for me. Nia looked up at the Whitmore billboard. Go back to them. That isn't what I meant. They have your name, your company, your future, and apparently your fiancé. I wouldn't want to keep them waiting. Nia, please, you promised there would be no more secrets after the announcement. There won't be. Then say it. Say what? Tell me you're engaged. Another pause. Someone called Ethan's name behind him. Nia, say it. Ethan breathed into the phone. I agreed to an arrangement. Her hand tightened around the device. With Olivia. Yes, the word emptied the air from her lungs. She had seen the ring and heard Charlotte's announcement. Yet some desperate part of her continued searching for another explanation. A misunderstanding. A decision made without Ethan's knowledge. A public stunt that he would immediately reject. Now there was nothing left to misunderstand. When? She asked. Nia, when did you agree? 3 weeks ago. She closed her eyes. 3 weeks ago. Ethan had kissed her at her kitchen table. 3 weeks ago. He had asked her to study Whitmore's finances. 3 weeks ago. He had spoken about the apartment they might share after the company recovered. All while knowing he had agreed to marry another woman. The night you asked me to analyze Whitmore's properties, she said. Was that before or after you promised yourself to Olivia? Nia, the engagement isn't what you think. I think you agreed to marry her. It is a strategic commitment. A strategic commitment with a diamond. We haven't set a wedding date. Her laugh broke in the middle. That is your defense. No. Then what is? I need you to come back. You'll leave the party, and we'll talk somewhere private. Nia looked toward the hotel windows. Ethan had watched her leave without a coat. He had allowed her to walk away because photographers were still capturing the engagement. Only after the public performance ended had he called. No, where are you? That isn't your concern. You're alone and freezing. I survived 22 winters before I met you. Stop acting as if I don't care. You care when no one important is watching. That isn't fair. You left my name off the list. Why father's office controlled the invitations. But you knew. I discovered it this afternoon. And you still sent the card I needed. You there. For what, Ethan? To applaud? No. To stand behind everyone while you took credit for my work. The silence changed. Nia stopped walking. Did you think I wouldn't recognize it? She asked. The final plan incorporates many sources. Those were my employment projections. We used your preliminary analysis on why wording appeared on the screen. The team developed it further. What team? Nia, what team? I can't discuss internal procedures. She lowered the phone and stared at it. An hour earlier, she had been the woman Ethan claimed to love. Now she was outside internal procedures. She raised it again. Do not call me, Nia. Wait. She ended the call. He called again. She rejected it and turned off the phone. Across the street, the billboard still promised that Whitmore Development was building the future together inside the hotel. Ethan stood alone in a service corridor with his phone pressed against his ear. Nia? Nothing. He tried again, but her phone had been switched off. Damn it. A door opened behind him. Olivia entered, gathering the skirt of her gown in one hand. The diamond on her finger scattered light across the wall. There you are. I said I needed 5 minutes. You've had 12. Our fathers are waiting. I don't care. That would be more convincing if you hadn't just accepted a promotion from them. Ethan looked toward the emergency exit. I need to leave. To chase Nia. He turned sharply. Olivia leaned against the wall. The woman in blue, she said. The one wearing your grandmother's necklace. My mother has it now. That wasn't my point. What is your point? That you made promises you were not in a position to keep. You know nothing about her. I know she looked at you as if she expected you to choose her. She had every right to. Olivia's composure weakened. Then why did you agree to this engagement? You know why? I know why our fathers wanted it. Mine wants access to Whitmore's municipal contracts. Yours needs sterling credit. I understand what they receive. I'm asking what you receive. Time. For what? To save the company. And after that. Ethan looked away. Olivia laughed quietly. You think our engagement has an expiration date? It has whatever date we decide. Does my father know? This is between us. Nothing is between us, Ethan. That is the point. She examined the ring. You chose this. My mother did. Of course she did. What does that mean? It means every woman in your life is expected to manage the emotions you consider inconvenient. Ethan stared at her. You don't get to lecture me about morality. No. But I understand this transaction better than you do. I never lied to you. You allowed me to stand on that stage while your girlfriend watched. I didn't know she entered the ballroom. But you knew she was inside the hotel. He said. Nothing. Olivia's face hardened. You could have warned me. And what would you have done? I would not have worn this ring tonight. Your father would have forced you. You do not know me as well as you think. I barely know you. Yet you agreed to marry me. Ethan walked toward the exit. Olivia caught his arm. If you leave now, tomorrow's story will be about you abandoning your engagement celebration. Let go. Why father will withdraw the credit line. Let him. Your father will fire you. I don't care. Yes. You do. Ethan looked at her hand until she released him. Olivia lowered her voice. If you go after Nia now, what will you offer her? Another secret relationship while you remain publicly engaged to me? Another promise about a future you cannot control. I'll tell her the truth. Which truth? That your father forced you? That hundreds of jobs depend on you? That you had no choice. They do. You had a choice. You simply hated the price of the other option. The service door opened. Charles Whitmore entered, followed by Richard Sterling. Charles' gaze moved from Olivia to Ethan. Everyone is waiting. I am leaving. Ethan said. No, Nia knows. Then the problem has resolved itself. Ethan stepped toward his father. You removed her from the guest list. Fifth. You had no right. It was my event. She created the plan you announced. She performed research. She designed the operating model. Charles' expression remained calm. And whose data did she use? Some of it was public. I gave her the rest. Whitmore information. Because I asked for her help. Which makes anything she produced company work. She isn't an employee. Exactly. She has no contract, documented ownership, or legal protection. Ethan stared at him. You planned this. I protected the company from your recklessness. Richard adjusted his cuff links. This is not the place. Ethan turned toward him. Your daughter is wearing a ring, while I love someone else. Richard looked unmoved. My daughter understands duty. Olivia's voice cooled. I am standing here. Dad. Then demonstrate that understanding. Charles adjusted Ethan's lapel. Nia Carter will recover from disappointment. The employees relying on this partnership may not recover from unemployment. Do not use them to excuse what you did. I did what you lacked the courage to do. You humiliated her. No. You did. I merely refused to reorganize a corporate event around your private indulgence. Ethan grabbed Charles' wrist. Do not call her the. The corridor became silent. Charles looked down at Ethan's hand. Release me. You have two options, Charles said. Return to the ballroom and protect the company, or leave now and explain to every employee why one relationship mattered more than their livelihoods. That is not a choice. It is the only kind that matters. Richard opened the ballroom door. Music flowed into the corridor. Ethan looked toward the exterior exit, then toward the room filled with investors whose approval he had pursued his entire life. Olivia watched the decision happen. Ethan straightened his jacket and followed his father back into the ballroom. He hated himself for it, but he followed. Nia reached the train station shortly after 9. The attendant told her the southbound service had been delayed by signal problems. How long? Could be 20 minutes. Could be an hour. Rain struck the station windows. Nia stepped into the restroom and stood before a scratched mirror beneath fluorescent light. The woman staring back still wore the dress Evelyn had shaped so carefully. Her makeup remained intact. Her posture was straight. Only her eyes revealed what had happened. Nia remembered Denise saying she was not entering the hotel to be chosen. She remembered Evelyn warning that a man who loved her privately but abandoned her publicly did not love her at all. They had seen the truth. Nia defended Ethan because accepting it would have required admitting that love had not made her blind. It had made her cooperative. She helped construct every excuse that kept the relationship alive. He was busy. His father was difficult. The company was endangered. The moment was not right. Each explanation reduced her expectations until basic acknowledgement felt like an extraordinary promise. A young black girl entered the restroom with her mother. The girl wore a red coat and stared openly at Nia. Don't stare. Her mother said, sorry, it's all right. Nia replied, you look like a princess. The girl said. Nia examined her reflection. Not tonight. The mother offered a sympathetic glance. Princesses have bad nights too. The girl answered. Her mother smiled. She reads too many stories. Maybe not enough. Nia said. When she returned to the platform, a television above the ticket machines showed footage from the gala. Closed captions appeared beneath Ethan's face. Young executive Ethan Whitmore unveils community redevelopment initiative expected to create hundreds of jobs. A diagram appeared behind the reporter. It was Nia's flowchart. The bottom of the screen. The caption read, program conceived by Ethan Whitmore. Nia stopped breathing. She switched on her phone. Messages flooded the screen. 7 missed calls from Ethan. 3 from Evelyn. 2 from Marcus. 1 from Professor Cole. She opened the professor's message first. Professor Cole. Is this the redevelopment model you discussed in my office? Nia. Yes. His response came quickly. Professor Cole. Did you authorize Whitmore to claim it? Nia looked at Ethan's face on television. Nia. No. Professor Cole. Preserve everything. Emails. Drafts, timestamps, messages. Do not confront them until you know what evidence exists. Nia opened her cloud storage. The project folder was gone. She searched for its title. No results. She checked the trash folder. Emmy. Her pulse accelerated. Ethan had access to the shared drive. She had granted it so they could edit documents simultaneously. She opened her laptop and connected to the station's wireless network. Budget drafts. Gone. Employment data. Gone. Presentation notes. Gone. Only several early documents stored locally remained. Nia changed every password. The account history showed that someone using Whitmore Development's network had accessed her storage 17 minutes earlier. While Ethan called to say he wanted to explain, someone at his company had been deleting evidence. She took screenshots. Her phone rang from an unfamiliar number. Carter. Yes. My name is Leonard Pike. I represent Whitmore Development. How did you get my number? You communicated with Mr. Ethan Whitmore concerning tonight's project. You mean the project I created? I'm calling to clarify certain issues before misunderstandings escalate. The announcement ended less than an hour ago. We prefer to address concerns efficiently. Why deleting my files? A pause followed. I don't know what you mean. Then why are you calling? To remind you that material shared by Mr. Whitmore may contain confidential company information. I sent the material to him. Whitmore's position is that Mr. Whitmore independently designed the initiative. You provided limited administrative assistance. Administrative assistance? That is our understanding. Your understanding is a lie. I advise you not to make defamatory statements. And I advise you not to access private accounts. Pike's voice became colder. If you possess copies of Whitmore documents, you must preserve them and refrain from distribution. Why? We are prepared to discuss reasonable compensation for your time. There it was. Not credit. Compensation. A payment intended to transform theft into employment after the fact. How much is my silence worth? Nia asked, "That is not how I characterize it. It is how I characterize it. Our goal is to protect all parties." "You called the wrong party." Nia ended the call. A text arrived seconds later. Leonard Pike. "Public disclosure of confidential Whitmore information may result in legal action." She saved it. The station doors opened, bringing in cold air. Frank Bell approached wearing a heavy coat over sweatpants. Evelyn followed, carrying another coat in her arms. When Nia saw them, her remaining strength collapsed. Evelyn wrapped the coat around her shoulders and pulled her close. Nia buried her face against her aunt's shoulder and cried, "I am sorry." She whispered, "For what?" "For being wrong about him. You are not guilty because someone lied. Well, I helped him with what?" "The project they announced." Evelyn held her at arm's length. "Was it yours?" "Yes." "Can you prove it?" "I don't know it. Then we find out." They returned to Bell's Corner Cafe. Frank unlocked the doors and prepared grilled cheese and soup while Nia showed Evelyn the remaining drafts. "Not delete any message because it hurts," Evelyn instructed. "Grief destroys evidence when people mistake erasing reminders for healing." "You sound like a lawyer." Nia said, "I watch television." Nia searched her conversation with Ethan. Hundreds of messages appeared. "Ethan, the local hiring requirement is brilliant." Nia, "It isn't charity. Reduced turnover offsets training costs." Ethan, "Remind me never to compete against you." Another exchange appeared beneath it. Ethan, "Can you rewrite the executive summary so my father understands it?" Nia, "Remove every word longer than 2 syllables." Ethan, "This is why I love you." Nia stared at the sentence. He recognized her value. That made the theft worse. Ethan had not dismissed her because he believed she lacked intelligence. He took her work because he understood its power. She found a photograph Ethan had sent 2 weeks earlier. A printed proposal lay on his desk. The title page contained both names. Community Enterprise Redevelopment Model prepared by Ethan Whitmore and Nia Carter. Tonight's presentation erased hers. Nia enlarged the photograph. A yellow note had been attached to the draft. The handwriting belonged to Charles Whitmore. Remove her name. Discuss ownership with Pike. Evelyn leaned closer. They planned it. Nia's grief became cold concentration. Charles reviewed the proposal and deliberately ordered her removal. Leonard Pike had been involved before the gala. Her phone illuminated. Ethan, meet me in the hotel garage. I need to explain what my father is threatening. Evelyn read the message. Don't go. I need to hear what he knows. He will tell you whatever returns you to his control. I am not going for an apology. What are you going for? The truth. Evelyn studied her. And if the truth is worse than what you already know, then I will finally stop defending a lie. Ethan waited beside a black sedan in the hotel garage. He had removed his bow tie and opened the top of his shirt. His hair was disordered. To anyone else, he might have appeared devastated by an impossible decision. Nia now understood how carefully he could arrange an appearance. You changed. He said, why dress belonged to a night that didn't exist. Ask your mother. All right. Do not use her to make this conversation feel normal. I'm concerned. You threatened me. The messages about confidential information. My father took my phone. You allowed him. I was on stage. You returned to that stage after I left. I had no choice. You keep saying that. Because you don't understand. The company has less than 48 hours of operating liquidity. If Sterling withdraws, we default on payroll and 3 construction loans. Contractors go unpaid. Hundreds lose their jobs. That explains the partnership. It explains everything. It does not explain why you agreed to marry Olivia. The Sterlings demanded a permanent alliance. People are not corporations and families like ours. There is little difference. And you agreed 3 weeks ago. I thought I could delay the announcement until the company stabilized. What would happen to me during this delay? I was trying to find a way not to lose you. You cannot promise yourself to another woman and call it an attempt to keep me. I love you. The words held none of their former power. No. Nia replied, you know I do. I know you love who I am when loving me costs nothing. That isn't true. You stood beside her. My father threatened to close the South Division manufacturing companies. 700 employees. So you saved them? I bought time. By announcing my plan under your name. His expression shifted. The board would never approve work created by someone outside the company. Why was my name removed? I told you. Your father wrote a note instructing Leonard Pike to remove it. Nia showed him the photograph. Genuine surprise crossed Ethan's face. Where did you get that? You sent it to me. I didn't notice the note, but you noticed that only your name appeared tonight. The final presentation was prepared this afternoon. Did you object? Nia, did you object? No. The answer echoed through the garage. Thank you, she said. For what? For answering one question honestly. I plan to compensate you. Compensate me? A consulting fee. Once I became chief operating officer, I intended to offer you a senior position. My work makes you an executive, and in exchange you offer me employment. That isn't what I mean. You become the visionary. I become the poor girl you discovered. I know how talented you are. Then why didn't you say my name? Because the board would ask about your credentials. So you would tell them I'm a student. Yes. That I work in a diner. Yes. That I come from the kind of neighborhood your family calls blighted. This is not about race. Nia laughed. You left a poor black woman outside while a rich white woman stood beside you. You want to tell me race had nothing to do with it? I didn't leave you outside. You knew I was not on the list. I found out hours before. You could have added me, and my father refused. You were 25. When do his decisions stop becoming your excuses? Ethan looked away. My father investigated you. He said. Nia became still. What? He knows about your mother's bills, your overdue rent, your tuition balance, and Evelyn's tax debt. How? I don't know. You told him? No. What is he threatening? If you publicly claim ownership, Whitmore will sue for theft of proprietary information. I never signed a confidentiality agreement. He'll argue you accessed the data without authorization. You gave it to me. He will deny. That. And you? Ethan's silence answered. He expects you to deny it too. Nia said. If this goes to court, I may not have a choice. You would lie. I'm trying to prevent it from reaching that point. How? Accept the consulting agreement. It will pay $75,000. Nia stared at him. $75,000 could cover her mother's treatment, clear their rent debt, stabilize Evelyn's shop, and allow Nia to complete college without waking before dawn. Ethan saw the calculation in her eyes. The agreement acknowledges that you assisted with research, he continued. It includes confidentiality and a position after graduation. You mean silence. IT protects the project. And your reputation. His honesty now felt obscene. And I disappear. You join the company. While you marry Olivia? The engagement can be reconsidered once Whitmore is stable. Does Olivia know? She understands the arrangement. Does the public? No. So I become your secret employee and secret girlfriend while Olivia stands beside you for photographs. That isn't what I'm offering. It is exactly what you're offering. I am offering a way to protect your family. Nia stepped closer. Why family survived before you. For how much longer? The question escaped too quickly. Ethan immediately regretted it. Nia slapped him. The sound cracked through the garage for several seconds. Neither moved. You investigated my mother's illness, Nia said. You calculated our debt. Then you came here believing a large enough number would make me grateful. I am trying to help. You're trying to buy what you could not steal. That isn't fair. Stop saying that. Her voice rose. My entire life has been unfair. I did not choose my neighborhood, underfunded schools, my mother's illness, or the color people notice before they see me. But I never used unfairness as permission to betray someone. Ethan held his cheek. You don't understand what happens if you refuse. Tell me. My father will bury you in litigation. Let him try. You don't have the resources. I have evidence. You have drafts based on company information. I have your messages. My father accessed my devices. I already saved them. Fear entered Ethan's eyes. For the first time, he looked at Nia not as someone to protect or persuade, but as someone capable of threatening the world he selected. You would destroy the company? He asked. Did you ask yourself that when you stole from me? 700 employees. Do not place them between us whenever you need somewhere to hide. What do you want? My name. That could collapse the partnership. Then perhaps you should have built it on something that belonged to you. Ethan shook his head. Sterling will never allow it. That sounds like your problem. If the company fails, your plan goes nowhere. My plan will go wherever I take it. You cannot implement it alone. Maybe not today. Something in her voice unsettled him. Nia turned away. If you leave now, Ethan said, there may be no return. She looked back at the man she had loved once. Losing him seemed like losing the future. Now she understood that his future never contained a seat for her. It contained only a hidden room where she could continue making him feel brilliant. You're right, she said. There won't be a tea home. Denise was waiting at the kitchen table. Marcus slept on the couch with his laptop open across his chest. A news report from the gala played silently on television. Denise switched it off when Nia entered. You knew. Nia said. I saw the announcement. He offered me $75,000 for what? My silence. Denise's expression hardened. IT would cover everything. Nia continued that does not mean you should accept. It could pay for your treatment. Oh, you haven't heard the conditions. I heard enough. Nia sat down. Was refusing selfish? It was expensive. That is not the same thing. They will sue me, then we fight. With what money? Denise smiled sadly. The same money we use for everything else. We don't have any. Exactly. Worrying about losing it won't take long. She opened a drawer and removed a metal cash box. Inside were folded bills. Why emergency fund? Denise explained. How much? $842. You need this. I saved it for an emergency. Your heart is an emergency, so is yours. Nia began to cry. Her mother came around the table and held her. He made me feel grateful that he loved me. Nia whispered that some people give affection the way banks give loans. They expect interest, control, and gratitude. I gave him everything. No. Denise held her daughter's face. You gave him time, trust, and work. Those can be rebuilt. It doesn't feel like it. Because tonight you are counting what he took instead of what remains. What remains? You. A sound came from Marcus' laptop. The screen illuminated with an upload notification. Nia project backup. Marcus opened his eyes when Nia touched the trackpad. What is this? She asked. I saved the demographic maps. The software created automatic backups. Nia opened the folder. Inside were copies of dozens of earlier project versions. Dates and revision histories linked her work to the final Whitmore presentation. Point 1 document contained internal comments. Charles Whitmore. Remove Carter references throughout. Leonard Pike. Her contribution creates exposure. Recommend retroactive consulting agreement and comprehensive release. Richard Sterling. Ensure public narrative identifies Ethan as sole architect. Olivia's association will strengthen investor confidence. Nia read the comments twice. They had not simply removed her name. They planned how to control her, purchase her silence, and use her relationship with Ethan as leverage. A final comment appeared near the bottom. Leonard Pike. If Carter refuses, emphasize unauthorized access. Personal relationship creates credibility concerns. Public sympathy should favor Ethan following the engagement announcement. Charles replied. Precisely. She will look vindictive. Nia sat back. They had planned her reaction before humiliating her. If she spoke, they would present her as a jealous former girlfriend seeking revenge because Ethan chose another woman. Marcus created multiple encrypted copies. Denise read over Nia's shoulder. They think they know what you'll do. They think no one will believe me, will they? Whitmore possessed wealth, lawyers, media connections, and a family name attached to half the skyline. Nia had a cracked phone, a folder of drafts, and $800 in a metal box. The imbalance should have frightened her. Instead, it gave the fight a recognizable shape. They don't need to believe me tonight, she said. An email arrived from Professor Cole. Professor Cole. I contacted an intellectual property attorney. He will meet you tomorrow. Bring everything. The attorney's name appeared beneath the message. Daniel Brooks. Evelyn's godson. Nia opened a new document and typed. Carter Community Enterprise Model. Original development record. She listed every piece of evidence in chronological order. The notebook sketches. Her email to Professor Cole. Marcus demographic maps. Charles written. Instruction. Ethan's messages. Pike's threat. The internal presentation comments. At the bottom, she added one sentence. They believed my poverty meant I had no power. Then she typed. They confused having less with being less. Tomorrow, Nia would meet Daniel. Tomorrow, the first battle would begin. Tonight, she allowed herself one final moment to grieve the man she thought Ethan was. Because when they met again, she would no longer approach him as the woman begging to be acknowledged. She would face him as the woman whose future he attempted to steal. The following morning, Nia Carter entered the offices of Mercer, Brooks and Hale carrying 73 pieces of evidence against the man she had loved. The law firm occupied the 32nd floor of a tower overlooking Lake Michigan. Pale winter sunlight spread across the limestone lobby. Behind a curved reception desk, a woman in a charcoal suit looked up from her computer. May I help you? I have an appointment with Daniel Brooks. Name? Nia Carter. The receptionist searched the calendar. Nina Carter? Nia. Of course. The correction was small, familiar, and exhausting. Nia accepted a visitor badge and sat with her borrowed briefcase between her feet. The lobby furniture appeared expensive enough to require permission before touching it. She had slept for less than 2 hours. Every time she closed her eyes, the ballroom returned. Ethan beside Olivia at the diamond, her proposal glowing behind them, the applause continuing while she walked away. Nia expected heartbreak to feel empty. Instead, it felt crowded. Every memory now contained two versions of Ethan. The man she believed in and the man who had always existed beneath that belief. A private dinner once considered romantic now resembled concealment. The late-night meeting once considered intimate now looked like unpaid labor. Even the emerald necklace had changed. It had not been a promise. It had been a beautiful distraction placed around her neck before she entered a room designed to reject her. The elevator doors opened. A tall black man in his early 30s crossed the lobby. His dark suit fitted perfectly, and a narrow scar passed through one eyebrow at Nia Carter. Daniel Brooks? The last time I saw you, you had braces and threatened to report me for stealing Evelyn's peach cobbler. You did steal it at it was cooling without supervision. You ate half the pan. I preserved the rest, despite everything. She smiled. Daniel's expression softened before he noticed the exhaustion in her face. How is Denise? Still pretending her heart condition is an administrative inconvenience, so nothing has changed. Nothing important. He led her into a modest office decorated with family photographs. One showed Daniel standing beside Evelyn at his law school graduation. Another showed him with Denise and Marcus at a neighborhood fundraiser. Daniel closed the door. Professor Cole gave me a summary, he said. I need the complete story from you. Nia placed the briefcase on his desk. She began with the first proposal and ended with the conversation in the hotel garage. Daniel listened without interrupting, occasionally writing a date or circling a name. When Nia finished, he examined her evidence. The handwritten concepts came first. Her notes contained interviews with shopkeepers, calculations based on publicly available property records, and diagrams predating Ethan's involvement. Next came emails sent to Professor Cole. Marcus maps followed. Then Ethan's messages acknowledging Nia's work. Finally, Daniel examined the recovered presentation with the internal comments. Charles Whitmore. Remove Carter references throughout. Leonard Pike. Recommend retroactive consulting agreement and comprehensive release. Richard Sterling. Public. Narrative must identify Ethan as sole architect. Daniel reread the comments. They planned the consulting offer before the announcement. Yes. And Pike threatened litigation immediately afterward. Yes. Did you record the call? No. I wrote down everything after it ended. That still helps. Nia watched his face. Can we stop them? Possibly. That doesn't sound confident. Lawyers who promise certainty are usually selling something. I own the project. Ideas alone are difficult to protect. But your written materials, financial model, original analysis, and presentation language may be protected. Whitmore might own confidential data originating inside the company. That does not automatically give it ownership over everything you created. I never signed a contract. That helps. I was never paid. That helps too. Then why can't we stop them immediately? Because being right and proving it before you run out of money are different things. Nia's shoulders tighten. I have $842. Daniel raised an eyebrow. Why Mother's Emergency Fund? Evelyn already discussed payment. What did she offer? Lifetime alterations. I am serious. So was she. Daniel, he leaned back. This firm has a pro bono allocation. Your case qualifies. Because I'm poor. Because a powerful corporation may have exploited an unrepresented individual. So yes. Your financial situation is not a moral failure. Nia. She looked away. Daniel studied her. You reject help because you believe accepting it gives someone ownership. Sometimes it does. Then examine the conditions. Do not confuse isolation with independence. The words landed closer than she wanted. What happens next? She asked. I'll send Whitmore a preservation demand ordering them to retain all relevant emails, drafts, access logs, and communications. They already accessed my account. We include that. And if they delete more evidence, we raise the destruction before a judge. Can we go public? Not yet. Why? Because anger talks faster than strategy. I am not angry. Daniel waited. Nia exhaled. I am furious. Good. Fury is fuel. It should not be allowed to steer. He separated the files into 3 stacks. The legal battle could take years. Whitmore may offer more money. I won't accept it. Do not answer before hearing the question. They want my silence. Then we reject silence. But compensation, public credit, and ownership participation would be worth discussing. They'll never agree. Not voluntarily. What creates enough pressure? Evidence, investors, and public perception. Daniel looked at her carefully. Whatever happens, do not allow Ethan to become the center of every decision. This is about your work. He has no power over me anymore. Last night is not long enough for any more. Nia did not respond. Daniel picked up the internal presentation. This document is our strongest advantage. Do not tell anyone outside your family that it exists, I understand. And do not contact Ethan, I don't intend to. The office phone rang. Daniel answered and listened for several seconds. Send it through. He opened an email while Nia watched. What is it? Whitmore increased the offer. To what? $200,000. Nia became still $200,000 not enough to pay Denise's medical costs. Eliminate the family's debt, stabilize Evelyn's shop, and complete college without working before dawn. What are the terms? She asked. Confidential consulting agreement, transfer of all ownership claims, withdrawal of legal allegations, and prohibition against discussing your relationship with Ethan. They want to buy both the project and the betrayal. Just as Daniel turned the screen toward her. You want time? Nia read the number again. For her family, it could change everything immediately. For Whitmore, it was less than the company spent decorating the anniversary gala. If I accept, she asked, will they acknowledge that I designed the model? No. Will my name appear anywhere? No. Then reject it. Daniel continued watching her. You're certain? No. It was the most honest answer available. But reject it. Daniel typed the response. Nia watched $200,000 disappear with the press of a key. She expected to feel powerful. Instead, she felt terrified. Whitmore Development filed its lawsuit 3 days later. The complaint accused Nia of unauthorized access, misuse of confidential information, breach of implied duty, and threatened defamation. It described her as a student who performed limited clerical and research assistance after gaining access through a personal relationship with Ethan. The company requested an injunction preventing her from using any part of the redevelopment model. Local business publications reported the filing. The headlines did not mention that Whitmore used Nia's work. They called her Ethan's former girlfriend. One website published photographs taken from her social media accounts beside formal engagement portraits of Ethan and Olivia. Disgruntled ex threatens Whitmore. Sterling Project Anonymous comments accumulated beneath the article. She was jealous. She wanted money. She had targeted Ethan because he was rich. Some asked why he would date someone like her. Others claimed Nia was exploiting race to gain sympathy, even though she had not spoken publicly. The story had been written for her before she opened her mouth. T-Bell's Corner Cafe. Customers recognized her. Some offered quiet support. Others studied her as if she were a scandal-carrying plates. One morning, a man in a business suit left a $1 tip and wrote on the receipt, "Get a real job instead of suing successful people." Frank saw it. He followed the customer onto the sidewalk and returned several minutes later holding a $10 bill. What did you do? Nia asked. I educated him about gratuity. Frank, that he is alive. That wasn't reassuring. Frank placed the money beside the register. You don't have to work out front until this passes. I need the hours. I can move you to the kitchen. No. I want hide. Frank nodded. That was the correct answer. The lawsuit also changed life at Evelyn's shop. A brick shattered the front window 2 nights after the first article. No one saw who threw it. Evelyn swept the glass before Nia arrived. When Nia discovered the damage, she began crying. Not because of the window, but because her choices had reached a woman who had done nothing except love her. I am dropping the claim, she said. Evelyn stopped sweeping. No, they came after your business. A coward threw a brick. The next person might do worse. And surrender guarantees they never need to. I cannot let you lose the shop. This place survived 2 recessions, a flood, online shopping, and 30 years of brides. It will survive 1 window. Aunt Evelyn, do not make me your excuse. The words silenced her. Evelyn leaned the broom against the wall. You think courage is feeling certain? She asked. It isn't. Courage is being afraid and refusing to hand fear the final decision. Nia looked at the broken window. What if I lose? You probably will lose something. That isn't encouraging. People who promise victory are usually not risking anything. I am telling you the truth. You may lose money. You may lose time. You may lose people you thought loved you. But if you surrender because they frightened us, you lose the right to decide what your work becomes. Nia lowered her head. Evelyn touched her shoulder. Now help me measure the glass. The following week, Professor Cole reminded Nia that the entrepreneurship competition application was due. I cannot enter the Whitmore project, she said. I didn't suggest that you should. I don't have anything else ready. You have notebooks filled with ideas. None are complete. Neither are most companies. He placed the application on her desk. If you spend every hour thinking about what Whitmore stole, you allow them to control what you create next. Nia considered the customers at Evelyn's shop. Women arrived each week carrying clothing purchased for job interviews. Jackets too wide in the shoulders, trousers too narrow at the hips, Dresses designed for bodies retailers imagined but few women possessed. Evelyn often charged less than the labor cost because customers could not afford both a garment and extensive alterations. Months earlier, Nia had sketched an adaptable clothing system, professional jackets with concealed seam allowances, adjustable waist structures, replaceable collars and cuffs, modular panels allowing one garment to change with its owner's body, job, or circumstances. The idea seemed too small beside Whitmore's multimillion-dollar projects. That night, she showed the sketches to Evelyn. What if professional clothing were designed to be altered? Nia asked. All clothing can be altered. Not affordably. Cheap. Garments are constructed so badly that adjustments cost more than the item. You finally noticed. I noticed years ago. You complained years ago. There's a difference. Nia spread the drawings across the cutting table. Customers buy one quality-based jacket. Hidden structures allow local tailors to change its size and style without rebuilding it. Manufacturing would cost too much. We start with reclaimed fabric. Labor. We train women from the neighborhood. Equipment. We have 3 machines. One of those machines remembers segregation. IT works. Out of spite, Nia smiled. We sell online through pre-orders, so we don't hold excess inventory. Customers select a base shape and submit measurements. Local fitting partners receive a fee for final adjustments. Evelyn studied the designs more carefully. Who is the customer? Women entering or re-entering the workforce. College graduates, single mothers, women changing careers, anyone whose body is ignored by traditional sizing. Price. $80 for a jacket. Too high for some. Installments and a rental program. Returns. Local fitting partners. Brand. Nia hesitated. Then she wrote 2 words across the top of the first page. Carter and Crown. Evelyn raised an eyebrow. Crown. A woman should not need a wealthy family's name to feel powerful. Evelyn examined the title. I like it. Will you help me enter the competition? If I agree. We put everything in writing. Nia looked at her. Everything? Ownership, responsibilities, compensation. This will not become another project where you perform everyone's work and hope love keeps them honest. IT won't. And I receive a chair with proper back support. Non-negotiable. Evelyn held out her hand. Nia shook it. Carter and Crown began beneath fluorescent lights in a struggling alterations shop with a broken front window. There were no cameras. No investors. No inherited capital, only 2 black women agreeing to build something neither could afford. Nia spent the next 3 weeks creating the competition. Proposal. Her days began at the cafe before dawn. She attended lectures until early afternoon, worked at Evelyn's shop until closing, then remained there with Marcus after midnight. Marcus built a simple website. IT looks terrible. Nia said. IT looks free. Can it look free in a more expensive way? That feature costs money. Evelyn created 3 prototype jackets. They tested adjustable seams, interchangeable panels, and reinforcement methods. The first jacket tore when Nia changed its size. The second looked like a theater costume. The third survived 40 adjustments. They asked 12 customers to test the prototypes. 9 immediately wanted to purchase. 1.1 woman named Alicia had been out of work for 11 years while raising 3 children. She wore the Navy prototype to a bank interview. When she returned to the shop 2 days later, she was crying. I got the job. Evelyn hugged her. Alicia turned toward the mirror. I knew the answers during the interview. But when I walked into the room, I didn't feel as if I needed to apologize for being there. Nia understood then that Carter and Crown was not simply selling clothing. IT was selling the moment before a door opened. The moment when a woman decided whether to shrink or enter at her full height. Nia filmed Alicia describing the experience, with permission, and included the clip in her competition presentation. The night before the deadline, Denise collapsed again. This time, the hospital admitted her. The cardiologist found a congenital valve disorder aggravated by years of untreated hypertension. Surgery would be necessary within several months. How much? Denise asked before asking about the risk. The doctor looked uncomfortable. Your insurance should cover part of it. How much is part? We'll have the financial office prepare an estimate. Nia knew the vocabulary. Estimate meant a number large enough to destroy planning. Outside the hospital room, Marcus leaned against the wall. We should have taken Ethan's money. He said quietly. Nia turned. He immediately looked ashamed. I didn't mean. Yes, you did. IT could pay for surgery. I know. What if fighting them costs Mom her chance? The question struck the fear Nia had avoided naming. She sat beside him. I don't know whether I made the right choice. Marcus looked at her. You always know. No. I usually decide before you realize I'm afraid. He stared at his shoes. Can you call Ethan? And say what? That well, take the money. The hospital corridor stretched in both directions, bright and impersonal. Nia imagined calling him. The offer might still exist. Perhaps it had increased. She could sign the release, withdraw the legal claim, and keep Denise alive. With the name on a project matter if her mother died protecting it. Before she could answer, Denise called from the room. Nia, they entered. Denise had heard enough. If you sell your work, she said, sell it because the terms respect its value. Do not sell it because powerful men discovered which person you love most. This is your life. And that is yours. I can create something else. Then why are they spending so much to own this one? Nia's eyes filled. Denise extended her hand. I did not work myself sick, so you could become easier to exploit. You worked yourself sick because we had no choice. Then make sure Marcus' children have more choices than we did. Nia sat beside the bed. What if I cannot save you and fight them? You are not responsible for saving everyone. You're my mother. And you are my daughter, not my insurance company. Denise smiled. Submit your competition proposal. I haven't finished the financial section. You have 6 hours. How do you know? Marcus told me. Marcus looked away. Denise pointed toward the door. Both of you. Go. We're not leaving you alone. I survived raising you. A hospital room cannot frighten me. Nia kissed her forehead. I love you. I know. Now make it useful. The entrepreneurship competition was held in an auditorium before 5 judges. 14 students presented before Nia. Their proposals included food delivery platforms, luxury travel services, artificial intelligence applications, and subscription products aimed at customers with disposable income. Nia waited backstage beside a garment bag containing the Carter and Crown prototype. Her phone displayed 3 messages from Daniel. The judge had denied Whitmore's request for an immediate injunction. The legal fight would continue, but Nia was not prohibited from developing unrelated work. She closed the message as her name was called. Nia stepped onto the stage wearing the navy Carter and Crown jacket. A screen behind her displayed a photograph of Evelyn's shop. Most professional clothing is designed around a fictional woman. Nia began. Her body never changes. Her income allows her to replace entire wardrobes. Every retailer carries her size, and every important room already expects her. The judges looked up. Millions of real women live differently. Their bodies change after pregnancy, illness, disability, aging, and work. Their income changes. Their careers begin, stop, and begin again. Yet the clothes meant to signal professionalism often punish them for having real lives. She removed the jacket's collar and replaced it with another. She opened concealed seams, adjusted the waist, and changed the silhouette in less than 2 minutes. Carter and Crown creates professional clothing designed for change. One garment can adapt across multiple sizes and styles. Local tailors become fitting partners rather than disappearing beneath mass retail. Reclaimed materials reduce cost and waste. Customers gain clothing that moves with their lives. A judge named Vanessa Reed leaned forward. What prevents a major company from copying this? The question pierced Nia. Documentation, protected construction designs, manufacturing relationships, and brand trust. She replied, none of those will stop a retailer with $1 billion supply chain. Then why invest? Nia looked directly at her. Because large retailers sell inventory. We sell continuity. Our customers do not want another disposable jacket. They want one dependable garment and a local person who can help it change. Another judge asked about margins. Nia answered. A third challenged her pricing. She presented the pre-order structure and alteration partner. Modeled at then Alicius recorded testimony played. When it ended, the auditorium remained quiet. Nia concluded with one sentence. No woman should have to become wealthy before the world agrees that she belongs in the room. She walked off stage to sustained applause. 2 hours later, Carter and Crown placed second. Nia did not win the $50,000 grant for several seconds. She stood behind the curtain, unable to move. She had invested 3 sleepless weeks in a single possibility. Second place came with $5,000. Barely enough to purchase industrial equipment and fabric. Evelyn embraced her. $5,000 is not nothing. IT isn't enough. IT is more than we had yesterday. Vanessa Reed approached them. She was 38, sharply dressed, and known for investing in consumer brands ignored by traditional firms. You answered my question incorrectly. Vanessa told Nia. Which one? Why a $1 billion retailer cannot destroy you. I said it could. That was not incorrect. It was incomplete. Nia waited. A large retailer cannot initially copy the trust you already possess with your customer. But trust does not remain protection unless you move quickly. Vanessa handed her a business card. I have a challenge for you. What kind? Turn your $5,000 prize into $50,000 in sales within 60 days. Evelyn laughed. That is not a challenge. That is a polite execution. Vanessa ignored her. If you reach 50,000, I will invest 250,000 for 20% of the company. Nia stared at her. And if I fail, you keep what you built. Why not invest now? Because I know customers want your idea. I don't know whether you can run the business required to deliver it. Nia examined the card. 60 days? To the minute. She looked toward Evelyn. Evelyn's expression said the target was impossible. Nia turned back to Vanessa. Agreed. They converted the alterations shop into a production room. Marcus rebuilt the website. Evelyn recruited 2 retired seamstresses. Frank allowed Nia to reduce her cafe hours without losing her job. The first online campaign produced 19 orders. The second produced 43. Nia contacted employment programs, women's shelters, college career centers, and professional associations. Most never replied. Some wanted free products. Others said Carter and Crown lacked manufacturing capacity. By day 20, sales reached $11,000. By day 35, they crossed 26,000. Then problems multiplied. The fabric supplier failed to deliver. One sewing machine broke. A customer posted a video claiming her jacket arrived with uneven seams. The clip reached 60,000 viewers before Nia discovered the woman was correct. They refunded her, repaired every garment from the same batch, and posted a public explanation. Orders slowed. On day 52, sales remained at $34,000. We are not reaching 50, Marcus said. They sat around the cutting table surrounded by unfinished jackets. We have 8 days. Nia replied, we have enough material for 60 orders. Then we sell 60 to 80, the average price. That still isn't enough. Evelyn massaged her swollen hands. We can create a premium version, No? Nia said. Our customer cannot afford premium prices. Then the mathematics has made its opinion clear. Nia looked around the shop. Workers had given their time based on her promise. Customers waited for orders. Denise's surgery estimate had arrived, $41,000 after expected insurance coverage. Every number seemed constructed to remind Nia that effort did not guarantee survival. Her phone rang. She rejected the call. A message followed. Ethan, I heard about the investor challenge. Whitmore can place a corporate order large enough for you to win. Nia stared at it. Another message appeared. Ethan, no conditions. Let me help. Evelyn read over her shoulder. There are always conditions. He says there aren't. He also said he would introduce you as his girlfriend. Nia turned the phone face down. That evening, she filmed a video inside the shop. She showed the broken machine, the returned garments, and the workers repairing each seam. My name is Nia Carter, she said into Marcus' camera. Carter and Crown was built for women who have been told they must hide every struggle before entering a professional room. We almost made the same mistake as a company. We tried to look larger and more polished than we were. She held up the repaired jacket. We are small. We make mistakes, but we repair what we make, pay the people who make it, and put our name on every promise. For the next 8 days, every purchase will help us train another neighborhood tailor and create another garment design to remain useful when a woman's life changes. Marcus uploaded the video. By morning, it had 20,000 views. By afternoon, 100,000. Women began sharing stories about interview clothing, body changes, career interruptions, and the humiliation of entering stores where nothing was designed for them. Orders arrived from across the country. Day 55, $30, $9,000. Day 57, $44,000. On the final morning, they still needed $3, $8.20. The workers gathered around Marcus' laptop as the deadline approached. 30 minutes remained. 2 orders arrived. Then nothing. 10 minutes. Nia watched the total remain at $48, $6.11. Evelyn held her hand. You built more than the number. Vanessa invested in the number. 5 minutes. 1 order. $48, $7.89. 2 minutes. A notification appeared. An organization in Detroit purchased 25 jackets for women graduating from a workforce reentry program. The total changed. $50, $9.64 for several seconds. No one reacted. Then Marcus shouted. The shop erupted. Evelyn cried openly. Workers embraced. Frank ran in from the cafe carrying a bottle of sparkling cider because no one could afford champagne. Nia stood before the screen, staring at the number. 60 days earlier, Carter and Crown had been sketches on a cutting table. Now strangers were trusting it with their money. Vanessa called at the exact deadline. You reached the target. She said, we did. You'll have the investment documents prepared. Send them to Daniel Brooks. A pause followed. You already have counsel? I learned early. Vanessa laughed. Good. Answer. When the celebration ended, Nia stepped outside. Night had settled over the neighborhood. The shop's repaired window reflected the Carter and Crown logo Marcus had printed on inexpensive gold vinyl. Her phone contained another message from Ethan. Ethan. Congratulations. I knew you could do it. Nia deleted it. Not because Evelyn warned her never to destroy evidence. That message was unrelated to the legal case, and Marcus backups preserved everything. She deleted it because Ethan no longer had the right to place himself inside her achievement. A news alert appeared moments later. Whitmore Community Initiative suspended amid ownership dispute. Daniel had succeeded in creating enough legal pressure for Sterling investors to pause the launch. The project Ethan used to become chief operating officer was collapsing. At the same moment, the company Nia built from discarded fabric had received its first $250,000 investment. She looked through the window. Evelyn stood beside a cutting table, demonstrating a seam to one of the new workers. Marcus danced badly while Frank poured cider into paper cups. They had no marble lobby and no family fortune and no tower bearing their name. But every person inside that shop knew who created Carter and Crown for the first time. Nia understood that being credited was not vanity. It was how ownership survived. She entered the shop and locked the door behind her. Tomorrow, they would hire more workers. Next month, they would move into a larger facility. Years later, people would describe Carter and Crown as an overnight success. None would see the two jobs, the hospital corridors, the broken window, the failed prototypes, or the final 2 minutes before the number changed. But Nia would remember. A crown she was learning was not something placed on a woman's head by someone powerful. It was something she built after powerful people decided she should remain invisible. The first $250,000 Carter and Crown received disappeared in 11 weeks. Nia had once imagined investment as a finish line, a vault opening, an obstacle vanishing, a moment after which every decision became easier. Instead, the money created more decisions than she had ever faced. $100,000 went toward equipment and a lease on a small manufacturing space 2 blocks from Evelyn's shop. $40,000 paid for fabric, fasteners, packaging, and shipping. Legal protection for their adaptable garment designs consumed another $25,000. Wages, insurance, website development, photography, and safety improvements claimed most of what remained. By the time Carter and Crown shipped its first full production run, less than $18,000 remained in the company account. Vanessa Reed reviewed the figures from across a folding table inside the new facility. This cannot continue, she said. Nia stood beside a whiteboard covered with production schedules. Sales increased 22%. Expenses increased 34%. We hired locally as promised. You hired too quickly. We had more orders than Evelyn's shop could complete. You hired 16 people for a demand level supporting 10. We're training them. With money the company does not have. They need time. Your customers need completed orders. Investors need growth. Employees need a company capable of paying them 6 months from now. Nia folded her arms. Which employees would you like me to fire? Vanessa closed the financial report. That question is designed to make responsible management sound cruel. It isn't a design. Give me names. I am not running this company. You own 20%. And you own the responsibility attached to the other 80. The words landed harder than Nia expected. She looked through the glass partitions separating the office from the production floor. Women worked at rows of industrial sewing machines. Several had been Evelyn's customers before becoming employees. One was a single mother recently released from prison. Another had lost her retail job after undergoing cancer treatment. A third was deaf and had been rejected by 4 local manufacturers despite 20 years of sewing experience. They were not numbers. That truth motivated NIT also made every decision more dangerous. Vanessa followed her gaze. Compassion without financial discipline is a promise that eventually breaks, she said. If Carter and Crown collapses, all 16 people lose their jobs. So what do you recommend? Freeze hiring. Reduce production hours temporarily. Increase the jacket price by 15%. Our core customers already struggle with $80. Your installment program remains. They shouldn't have to finance clothing for an interview. Then create sponsorship partnerships. But stop pricing the company as if profit is something shameful. Nia looked back at her. Profit is not the mission. No. It is the oxygen. Vanessa stood. I invested because you understood a customer everyone else ignored. I did not invest so you could prove virtue by going bankrupt. After Vanessa left, Nia remained alone in the office. On the whiteboard, every line connected to another obligation. More production created more jobs but required greater inventory. Higher prices protected wages but excluded poorer customers. Lower prices expanded access but endangered the company. No decision remained morally clean once it affected enough people. Nia thought of Ethan. He had used hundreds of employees to justify betraying her. She hated the way he transformed responsibility into a shield. Now she understood one part of the pressure he described. Understanding did not create forgiveness. He still had choices. So did she. The difficulty of a decision did not eliminate responsibility for making it. Nia erased the hiring expansion from the whiteboard. She approved the temporary reduction in production hours but guaranteed every employee a minimum weekly income. She raised the standard retail price while creating a non-profit sponsorship fund financed through premium corporate orders. The compromise satisfied no one completely. It was probably the correct decision. Denise underwent heart surgery the following month. Nia sat beside Marcus in the hospital waiting room for 7 hours. She tried reviewing inventory reports but read the same paragraph repeatedly. Marcus attempted to work on Carter and Crown's website before closing his laptop. What if something goes wrong? He asked. Nia stared at the operating room doors. We deal with it. That isn't an answer. It's the only one I have. Marcus was 17 now. He had grown taller, but fear reduced him to the boy who used to wait outside Denise's bedroom whenever her coughing continued too long. Nia took his hand. The surgeon knows what she's doing. You don't know that, huh? You always act as if you know it. I act before fear makes the decision for me. Marcus looked at her. Is that what you did with Ethan? The question surprised her. I thought so. Do you miss him? Nia watched nurses move through the corridor. I miss the person I believed he was. That sounds like yes, it's more complicated. Everything adults don't want to explain is complicated. She almost smiled. What happened to Whitmore's lawsuit? He asked. Daniel is negotiating. Will they give you credit? They may be forced to. Will Ethan apologize? I'm not negotiating for an apology. You didn't answer. No, Nia said. I don't think he will. The operating doors opened before Marcus could respond. The surgeon approached. Removing her cap, the procedure went well. Nia's body weakened with relief. There were no major complications. The surgeon continued. Her recovery will take time, but the valve is functioning properly. Marcus embraced Nia. She closed her eyes against his shoulder. 4 months. She had imagined this moment arriving with a bill she could not pay. Instead, Carter and Crown's insurance and Daniel's successful appeal of Denise's denied coverage reduced the family's responsibility to an amount Nia could manage. Ethan's money had not saved her mother. The company Nia built after refusing it had helped keep Denise alive. Yet as relief moved through her, Nia recognized something uncomfortable. If Carter and Crown had failed, pride would not have paid for surgery. Her decision worked because thousands of strangers bought jackets. Vanessa risked capital. Daniel donated legal time. Evelyn offered her shop. Frank protected her employment. And Marcus worked without compensation. Independence was not the absence of help. It was the ability to accept help without surrendering ownership of oneself. Daniel called while Denise was recovering. Whitmore wants to settle. Nia stepped into the hospital corridor. Terms. They acknowledge you as the original designer of the community enterprise model. Publicly? In a joint statement. What about ownership? You retain ownership of your original written work and may develop it independently. Whitmore receives a limited license to continue its existing project. And compensation. $750,000. Nia leaned against the wall. The amount was nearly 4 times Ethan's final private offer. What are they asking me to surrender? All legal claims related to the existing use. No confidentiality concerning your authorship, but you cannot discuss internal documents or accuse individual executives of intentional theft. They intentionally stole it. We know what the comments suggest. They know too. Settlements are not confessions. What happens if I refuse? We continue to trial. The case could take 2 or 3 years. They might appeal even if we win. Can we win more? Possibly. That means you don't know. Correct. Nia looked through the room's narrow window. Denise was asleep. Marcus sat beside her reading instructions from the nurse. What do you think I should do? I think the settlement restores your name, protects your ability to use the model, and provides capital without silencing the central truth. It allows Whitmore to continue. They'll pay a license fee. Ethan keeps his title to 4 now. Nia heard something in Daniel's voice. What does that mean? Sterling withdrew part of its credit. Whitmore is selling assets and cutting projects. Ethan is no longer chief operating officer. What happened? Charles blamed him for the lawsuit. Nia expected satisfaction. Instead, she felt tired. Does Ethan know about the settlement? He has to approve the license because several documents list him as a contributing author. He didn't contribute enough to own it. He contributed internal data and edits. We can challenge that, but it complicates the claim. What does he want? He agreed to remove his authorship if Whitmore publicly identifies you as the principal creator. Nia became silent. Why? You would need to ask him. I'm asking you. I am your attorney, not his interpreter. She looked at the hospital floor. Accept the settlement. You're certain? I want my name. I want the right to build the project elsewhere. And I want Whitmore to fund the neighborhoods it planned to profit from. What exactly are you proposing? Dedicate part of the payment to a small business fund administered independently. Whitmore matches it. That may reduce your personal compensation. I know. How much? $200,000 from my payment. They match $200. Daniel paused. You understand that money could expand Carter and Crown. Yes. Or pay off your family's debts. Vanessa may object. She can object. Daniel laughed quietly. What? I was remembering the girl who threatened me over peach cobbler. You ate half ill. Revised the settlement. When the call ended, Nia returned to Denise's room. Her mother opened her eyes. Good news or bad? Both. That usually means law. They offered a settlement. How much? $750,000. Denise stared at her. Dollars? No. Bus tokens. Don't become irritating because you're successful. I learned it from you. Nia explained the terms and the proposed neighborhood fund. Denise listened without interruption. You're giving away $200,000? Marcus asked. Investing it in other people's businesses. Yes. We have debt. I know that you could buy a house. I know that. Then why? Nia sat beside him. Because Whitmore used our community as a background for a project designed to save itself. If I take the money and leave, the legal result changes, but the people in those buildings gain nothing. Marcus frowned. Wouldn't expanding Carter and Crown create jobs too? Yes. So why not invest there? It was a fair question. Nia considered it before answering. Because ownership should not depend on everyone working for me. Denise smiled faintly. She's right. Marcus leaned back. I hate when both of you become philosophical. You'll survive. Denise said. The settlement was signed 2 weeks later. Whitmore Development issued a public statement recognizing Nia Carter as the principal creator of the community enterprise redevelopment model. Several publications corrected their previous stories. One posted a new headline. Student entrepreneur receives credit in Whitmore dispute. The word student still appeared before entrepreneur, as though youth and poverty made her achievement provisional. But her name was there. It could no longer be erased without leaving evidence. Ethan signed away his authorship claim. He did not contact her. During the next 4 years, Carter and Crown expanded from 1 neighborhood facility to 6 regional production partnerships. The company introduced adaptable trousers, dresses, maternity to professional garments, and clothing designed for women with limited mobility. Its fitting network grew through independent alterations shops, most owned by women who struggled against large retailers. Nia completed her degree at night. Evelyn became head of design and refused every executive title Vanessa suggested. I am a tailor. She insisted. You supervise 50 designers. Nia said. I am a tailor with witnesses. Marcus studied software engineering and built Carter and Crown's sizing platform. Customers could enter measurements, mobility needs, and style preferences without having their bodies assigned humiliating labels. Denise recovered and reduced her cleaning hours. She refused to stop working completely. I need somewhere to complain about management, she explained. Nia offered to purchase a house for her. Denise chose a modest brick home 3 streets from the old apartment. We can afford somewhere larger, Nia said. I need 3 bedrooms. You could have 5. I do not want to clean 5. You can hire someone. I spent 20 years cleaning rich people's houses. I will not become one of them because my daughter discovered buttons. Carter and Crown's revenue crossed $10 million during its 5th year. Business magazines began requesting interviews. Some described Nia as a symbol of resilience. Others preferred the revenge narrative. They wanted to ask about Ethan. They wanted photographs of her standing outside Whitmore headquarters. They wanted a poor black woman transformed into a millionaire because betrayal was easier to sell than years of operations, manufacturing failures, staffing decisions, and customer research. Nia refused most requests. I didn't build Carter and Crown to become evidence that humiliation is useful. She told Vanessa. Stories drive attention. Vanessa replied, then tell. The story of the product. The product is not why they click. It is why customers return. Vanessa studied her. You still believe excellence protects you from narrative. No. I believe choosing our narrative protects us from becoming entertainment. Vanessa smiled. That answer will eventually make you a difficult billionaire. I am not trying to become one. No one ever admits they are. Success changed Nia's schedule, clothing, and address. It also changed how strangers interpreted everything she did. Confidence once considered arrogance became leadership. Directness once labeled anger became executive decisiveness. When Nia wore inexpensive clothing, journalists called her grounded. When she wore designer clothing, they called her powerful. Money did not transform her personality. It transformed the excuses people made for respecting it. That knowledge made success difficult to enjoy innocently. Daniel remained Carter and Crown's outside counsel. He also became Nia's closest friend. They ate dinner after late meetings, attended community events, and argued about everything from expansion contracts to whether Evelyn's peach cobbler required ice cream. There were moments when their friendship seemed capable of becoming something more. Daniel never forced those moments. One evening, after Carter and Crown opened a new facility in Detroit, they stood on a hotel balcony overlooking the river. You've been avoiding me. Daniel said. I saw you yesterday in a meeting with 12 people. That still counts as seeing. Not, unless one of us is an optometrist. Nia smiled. Daniel leaned against the railing. Vanessa says you're considering the acquisition. A large retailer had offered $90 million for Carter and Crown. I am considering everything. You hate the idea. I hate losing control. You would remain chief executive until the quarterly numbers disappoint someone. What would you do with $90 million? Expand the community fund. Build a manufacturing institute. Create health coverage for fitting partners. You answered with obligations. What should I buy? An island? You dislike sand. I do. What do you want? Nia? The question unsettled her. I want the company protected. That is what you want for Carter and Crown. What do you want? I don't know. Daniel nodded. That is the first honest answer you've given tonight. She looked across the river. I wanted so many things when I had nothing. A safe apartment. Medicine for mom. Tuition. 1 week without checking my account before buying food. And now every personal purchase feels like evidence against the person I used to be. Poverty does not become more virtuous because you escaped it. I know it. You? Nia turned toward him. Daniel's expression softened. You are allowed to enjoy what you built. As that legal advice? No. Legal advice costs more. She laughed. His hand rested on the railing beside hers. Their fingers nearly touched. Nia felt the possibility between them. Then her phone rang. Vanessa. Nia stepped away to answer. The moment passed. As similar moments had passed before. Daniel watched her return to work. He did not complain. That made her avoidance more difficult to excuse. In Carter and Crown's 6th year, Olivia Sterling requested a meeting. Nia considered refusing. Curiosity 1. Olivia arrived alone at the company's Chicago headquarters. She wore a cream suit without visible jewelry. The engagement ring was gone. Nia received her inside a conference room overlooking the production floor. You look different, Olivia said. So do you. I assume that was not a compliment. It was an observation. Olivia Saturday. I left Ethan 4 years ago. I know. The press described it as mutual. The press described your engagement as romantic. Olivia accepted the correction at why father used Whitmore's financial weakness to acquire several of its properties. Charles believed the marriage would protect his company. Richard intended to dismantle it from the beginning. Did Ethan know? Not initially. And you? Not initially. Nia folded her hands. Why are you here? Sterling Capital is under federal investigation for what? Pension fraud, falsified valuations, and illegal transfers involving Whitmore projects. Are you involved? I signed documents. Did you understand them? Some. The answer was honest enough to create tension. Olivia placed a flash drive on the table. This contains internal correspondence involving my father and Charles. Why give it to me? Because one group of missing pension funds belongs to workers attached to the redevelopment project. Nia looked at the drive but did not touch it. Take it to federal investigators. I have. Then why bring it here? The workers will need independent representation. The companies will spend years arguing about which entity is responsible. You want Carter and Crown to fund their case. I want your community foundation to consider it. Why should I trust you? You shouldn't. Olivia met her gaze. I knew Ethan had someone before the engagement. I did not know your name or the extent of the relationship, but I knew enough to ask questions. I chose not to because acknowledging you would have made my decision harder. You stood beside him. You wore the ring. You watched me leave. Yes. Olivia's refusal to defend herself unsettled Nia more than an excuse would have. Are you asking for forgiveness? No. I am trying to prevent another group of people from paying for my obedience. Nia looked toward the production floor. What happened to Ethan? He works at Whitmore. I thought Charles removed him. He returned after Charles' health declined. The company is much smaller now. Is he involved in the fraud? I don't know. Then why come to me instead of him? Olivia's expression became difficult to read. Because he still believes saving the company and saving his father are the same thing. After Olivia left, Nia gave the drive to Daniel. You didn't open it? He asked. No. Good. You sound surprised. You once entered a hotel garage alone the night after receiving a legal threat. I was 22. You were reckless. I prefer determined. Recklessness is determination without competent counsel. Daniel sent the drive to a forensic specialist. 3 weeks later, federal authorities announced charges against Richard Sterling and 2 executives. Charles Whitmore was named as a cooperating witness but not charged. Thousands of workers' retirement accounts remained frozen. Carter and Crown's foundation financed independent representation for the affected employees. The decision cost the company $6 million over 3 years. Vanessa objected. The board objected. Nia proceeded. She told herself it was justice. Some directors quietly wondered whether she was still fighting Ethan's family through every available battlefield. Nia wondered. 2.10 years after the night of the gala, Carter and Crown crossed a valuation of $300 million. Nia's personal holdings made her a millionaire many times over. On the morning the valuation became official, she arrived at Bell's Corner Cafe before sunrise. Frank had retired, but the new owner preserved his name above the entrance. His old corner stool remained empty until he arrived at 6 wearing a coat over striped pajamas. You couldn't schedule this during business hours? He complained. You woke at 4 for 30 years. That is why I retired. Nia poured coffee for him. You're doing it wrong. You trained me. And yet. Frank tasted it. How rich are you now? Good morning to you too. I saw the news. Valuations aren't cash. That sounds like something rich people say. Nia smiled. Frank studied her. You happy? Sometimes. Terrible answer. It's the true one. Those are often terrible. He added sugar. Your mother told me you turned down $90 million. She talks too much. She says you work more now than when you had 3 jobs. That isn't mathematically possible. Apparently wealth created new hours. Nia looked around the cafe. The counter had been replaced, but she could still identify the spot where her cracked phone once rested while she waited for Ethan's messages. I thought money would make everything simple. Money makes expensive problems possible. Profound. I am retired. We're allowed to become philosophical and annoying. Her phone vibrated. Daniel's name appeared. We have an opportunity, he said when she answered. What kind? A distressed acquisition. Send it to the corporate team. This one needs you. Nia heard the caution in his voice. What company? A pause. Whitmore Development. She became motionless. What happened? The pension litigation, asset sales, and loan defaults finally caught up with them. Their remaining creditor wants a buyer before filing for bankruptcy. How bad? Bad enough that its name is worth more than its operations. Who approached us? The creditor believes Carter and Crown's property division could convert Whitmore sites into manufacturing and retail hubs. Nia looked through the cafe window at the waking neighborhood. The proposal sounded remarkably similar to the model she created 10 years earlier. Who runs Whitmore now? Ethan. Frank watched her face from across the counter. Nia lowered her voice. Does he know Carter and Crown is the potential buyer? No. The negotiations are confidential. What happens if we refuse? Assets are liquidated. Roughly 800 remaining employees and contractors are affected. Again. Employees stood between Nia and a decision involving Ethan. The pattern felt almost cruel. Schedule a review. She said, you don't have to do this personally. Yes, I do. Nia This is not about him. Daniel was silent for a moment. Then make sure that remains true. The call ended. Frank stirred his coffee. Was that the past? Nia slipped the phone into her bag. No, what was it? She looked toward the skyline, where the Whitmore Tower remained visible between neighboring buildings and acquisition. Frank followed her gaze. Understanding entered his face. Careful. He said. Of what? People spend years climbing out of a hole, then return because they want the hole to see them standing above it. I am not returning for revenge. That wasn't what I warned you about. Nia picked up her coat. 10 years earlier, she entered the Sterling Grand wearing a borrowed dream and an emerald necklace. She had waited outside a ballroom because Ethan Whitmore was ashamed to give her a seat. Now she controlled a company capable of purchasing what remained of his family's empire. Everyone would expect her to destroy him. A small part of Nia wanted to. That was the part she would need to fear most. Whitmore Development's executive conference room had not changed. The same architectural models stood beneath glass covers. The same long table reflected the skyline. Even the silver clock above the door remained 4 minutes slow. 10 years earlier, Nia Carter had entered that room carrying a laptop and the desperate belief that Ethan Whitmore intended to build a future with her. Now she entered as the majority owner of the company purchasing his. 6 Carter and Crown executives accompanied her. Daniel walked at her right, carrying the acquisition documents. Vanessa followed with the expression of someone prepared to challenge every sentimental decision before it became expensive. Nia wore a black Carter and Crown suit designed specifically for her. There was no emerald necklace around her throat. No borrowed symbol of belonging. She had no need for one. Across the table, Ethan rose. Time had changed him more severely than Nia expected. Silver touched his hair near the temples. The smooth confidence of his 20s had been replaced by exhaustion. His suit remained expensive but showed wear at the cuffs. The man who once stood beneath chandeliers accepting applause now looked as if he had spent years waiting for a building to collapse. Recognition moved across his face. The other Whitmore executives turned toward him. Until that moment, they had known only that a representative of the purchasing company would attend. Carter and Crown's involvement had been concealed through an acquisition subsidiary. Nia placed a leather folder on the table. Good morning, Mr. Whitmore. The formality hurt him. She could see it. Daniel began the meeting. Carter Urban Holdings has reached a preliminary agreement with North Continental Bank to acquire Whitmore Development's secured debt and selected operating assets. Ethan continued looking at Nia. You're the buyer. Carter and Crown is the controlling investor. His chief financial officer leaned toward him. You said the buyer was confidential. IT was. Ethan replied. Vanessa opened a presentation. The proposed acquisition preserves 6 active projects, assumes selected pension obligations, and retains approximately 70% of Whitmore's current workforce. A board member named Paul Henderson frowned. What happens to the remaining 30%? Some positions are redundant, Vanessa said. Others belong to divisions that cannot operate profitably. Whitmore has never used mass layoffs as a restructuring tool. Nia looked at him. Whitmore had closed entire divisions while claiming layoffs were beyond its control. She remembered Charles using those workers to justify Ethan's engagement. Whitmore has also never completed a profitable year since 2018, she said. Tradition is not automatically a virtue. Henderson's face reddened. You speak as if this company has already been sold. The bank controls your debt. You have missed 2 payment deadlines. Without an acquisition, it files for bankruptcy Monday. Silence settled over the room. Ethan finally Saturday. What do you want? He asked. Nia opened the folder. We intend to convert 3 underused Whitmore properties into mixed manufacturing, retail, and small business centers. Local companies will receive below-market leases, shared logistics, and hiring incentives. Ethan recognized the model immediately. It's the community enterprise plan, a mature version. You're using it to acquire Whitmore. I am using it to save viable assets and the people attached to them. The irony did not need explanation. A decade earlier, Ethan claimed the model required his family's wealth and access to become real. Now the woman he erased was using its success to purchase what remained of his family's company. What happens to the Whitmore name? Henderson asked. It will remain on historically significant projects during the transition. Nia replied. The parent organization will become Carter Urban. Henderson pushed back from the table. You intend to erase 40 years of history. Nia met his eyes. Names matter when they belong to the people who did the work. I learned that from this company. No one answered. Daniel continued explaining the terms. Ethan barely looked at the documents. His attention remained on Nia. When the presentation ended, the Whitmore board requested time to meet privately. You have until 3, Vanessa said. That is less than 2 hours, Henderson objected. The bank gave you until this afternoon. The Carter and Crown team left. Ethan followed Nia into the corridor. Can we talk? Daniel stopped beside her. Nia looked at Ethan. Privately, Ethan added. Daniel's expression showed his objection. They'll be downstairs. Nia told him. Call if the conversation stops being professional. Ethan almost smiled. He still doesn't trust me. Daniel looked directly at him. I understand you. Then he walked away. Nia entered a small meeting room. Ethan closed the door but remained several feet away. You knew? He said. Knew what? That the confidential buyer was us for how long? 6 weeks. And you allowed me to negotiate without telling me? The bank required confidentiality. You could have contacted me personally. Our personal relationship ended 10 years ago. Ethan flinched. I know it then. Why would I compromise an acquisition to make you comfortable? I wasn't asking for comfort. What were you asking for? He looked toward the windows. A warning. Like the warning you gave me before announcing your engagement. The answer came before she could stop it. For 6 weeks, Nia had promised herself that the acquisition was business. 1 minute alone with Ethan, and she had returned to the ballroom. Ethan accepted the blow. I deserved that. Deserving something does not make hearing it useful. I'm not asking you to forgive me. Could it? I stopped expecting that years ago. Nia folded her arms. What do you want to discuss? The employees' 70% remain. Many have spent their entire careers here. Length of service does not create a profitable position. That sounds like Vanessa. It sounds like reality. Ethan studied her. You would have hated that answer once. I once believed good intentions protected payroll. And now I understand that an irresponsible promise is another form of betrayal. He nodded slowly. You built something extraordinary. This meeting is not about Carter and Crown, I know. Then stopped speaking, as if admiration repairs anything. I don't expect it to. His voice held no defense. That unsettled Nia more than an argument. The Ethan she remembered explained every failure until responsibility disappeared beneath pressure. This man seemed too tired to build excuses. What happened to you? She asked. My father. That is not an answer. No. It is what happened. Ethan sat, but did not invite her to join him. After the settlement, he removed me from operations. When Sterling began acquiring our assets, Charles blamed me for introducing weakness into the company. Didn't he invite Sterling? He no longer remembered decisions once they became failures. That sounds familiar. Yes. Ethan looked down at his hands. I spent years trying to earn back his approval. By the time I understood there was nothing to earn, the company was nearly gone. Why return? My mother still owned shares. Employees' retirement funds were tied to Whitmore obligations. I believed I could protect them. Could you? Not enough. Nia heard the old language again. Protection. Responsibility. Employees. You always place other people between yourself and your choices. Ethan raised his eyes. You're right. The immediate admission took the force from her accusation. I returned partly because of them, he continued. I also returned because I could not accept that the Whitmore name would end under my leadership. That was pride, not duty. Nia remained standing. And Olivia? We ended the engagement 4 years after the gala. 4 years. The credit arrangements made leaving difficult, but possible. The word was quiet. What changed? She discovered her father planned to dismantle Whitmore no matter what we did. She left him and eventually left me. Were you in love with her? No. Was she in love with you? I don't know. Did that matter? It should have. Nia looked away. Once. She imagined this conversation constantly. She pictured Ethan confessing that his engagement was empty, that he had loved only her, that every year without Nia had punished him. Hearing it now brought no satisfaction. The damage done to Olivia did not prove Nia's importance. It proved Ethan's willingness to let women occupy roles in his life without asking what those roles cost them. I saw your mother's obituary. Nia said. Ethan's face changed. She died 2 years ago. I am sorry. She kept the necklace. Nia looked at him. The emerald, he explained. She left it to you. I don't want it. I assumed you wouldn't. It's in a safe. She should have kept it with the family. She considered you family. She met me for less than 5 minutes. She knew what Charles and I had done. That doesn't create a relationship. Oh. Ethan looked toward the door. They'll give it to a charity auction. That's your decision. The distance in her answer settled between them. Ethan rose. Are you going to remove me? As chief executive. From the company. The board will determine leadership after acquisition. You control the board. Yes. Then what do you want? For a moment, Nia saw him as he had seen her in the hotel garage. Financially vulnerable, professionally cornered, waiting for someone with more power to decide how much dignity he could retain. She had imagined this reversal and those fantasies. She felt triumphant. Reality felt uglier. I want an accurate evaluation of your performance, she said. And after that, if you are the best person for a role, you'll be offered a role. Not necessarily your current position. A bitter smile touched his face. My father once told me that if I walked away from the gala, I would own nothing he had not chosen to give me. And he was right. Nia shook her head. No. You still believe ownership is inherited. That is why losing his company feels like losing everything. What would you call it? An opportunity to discover whether there is anything beneath the name. Ethan absorbed the answer. Before Nia reached the door, he spoke again. Did becoming successful make you happy? She turned. That is not your concern. He nodded. It isn't at 3 o'clock. Whitmore's board accepted the acquisition terms. North Continental Bank issued an immediate announcement. Within an hour, business reporters gathered outside the tower. The story spread quickly. Millionaire entrepreneur acquires company that once took her work from waitress to owner. Nia Carter returns to Whitmore. The ultimate revenge. The word appeared everywhere. Revenge. Reporters wanted to know whether Nia intended to fire Ethan. Commentators argued about what he deserved. Some insisted that destroying him would empower every woman ever betrayed by a wealthy man. Others accused Nia of using corporate resources to settle a personal grievance. Few discussed the 800 employees or the failing projects. The public preferred a simple story. A poor black girl had returned rich enough to punish the white man who discarded her. That evening, Nia watched a television debate from her office. One commentator said, if she keeps him employed, she is rewarding racism and betrayal. Another responded, if she fires him despite his qualifications, she proves this. Acquisition is personal. Nia muted the television. Every option had been turned into evidence about her character. Vanessa entered without knocking. The coverage is excellent. It's turning the acquisition into entertainment. Attention increases Carter and Crown's value. We did not buy Whitmore for publicity. No. But we would be negligent not to use it. Nia looked at her. Use what? The worst night of my life? The story already exists. The question is whether we benefit from it or allow others to control it. Eve heard that argument before. Vanessa sat across from her. I reviewed the Whitmore employment files. Ethan has performed better than expected under impossible conditions. You think he should stay? I think firing him immediately creates operational risk. What role? Transition director for 12 months. That places him under me. Every executive in the acquired company will be under you. Nia leaned back. People will say I'm humiliating him. People will say something regardless. And after 12 months, we evaluate him. Would you recommend this if he were anyone else? Yes. Are you certain? No. But business is often the art of making decisions before certainty arrives. Vanessa placed a folder on the desk. There is another issue. What? 3 Whitmore executives approved pension transfers connected to Sterling's fraudulent accounts. Nia opened the folder. Ethan's signature appeared on 2 documents. Her stomach tightened. Did he know? He claims Charles told him they were emergency liquidity reallocations. Did he verify? Apparently not. That makes him responsible, possibly negligent. There is no evidence he personally benefited. Workers lost retirement savings because he signed papers he did not understand. Yes. Nia closed the folder. Daniel needs to review this. He already is. If Ethan concealed anything during acquisition negotiations, we terminate and refer it to federal investigators. Nia looked at his signature. 10 years earlier, Ethan had agreed to an engagement without fully understanding the agreement. He had allowed Charles to use his name and claimed pressure removed his choice. Now the same pattern had endangered people's pensions. Perhaps he had changed emotionally. Professionally, his weakness remained costly. The next morning, Nia asked Ethan to meet her in the former executive dining room. She deliberately chose the space. During her relationship with Ethan, she once came to the building carrying dinner because he had worked late. A senior manager saw her near the dining room and assumed she was part of the catering staff. Ethan did not correct him. He waited until the man left before apologizing. Now portraits of Whitmore founders watched Nia sit at the head of the table. Ethan entered carrying the pension file. You've seen the signatures. He said, I didn't know where the money was going, did you ask? My father said the transfers were required to meet pension obligations. That is not what I asked. Ethan sat opposite her. I asked once. He told me the accounting team had approved them. Did you contact the accounting team? No. Why? Because challenging him in front of the board would have created a crisis. The transfers created a crisis. I know people lost their retirement security because you chose peace with your father over verification. I know his agreement angered her. Stop saying that as if awareness is accountability. What do you want me to say? The truth. The truth is I signed documents I did not adequately review because I was afraid that opposing Charles would remove my final chance to save the company. And did that save it? No. Did it save the employees? No. Then who did it save? Ethan looked at her. Me. For a while. The room became quiet. Nia opened the file. Why did you disclose these signatures during due diligence? Because hiding them would expose Carter and Crown after acquisition. You could have walked away before we arrived. And left someone else to discover them. Yes. I did that once. Nia understood what he meant. He had watched her enter the ballroom without warning because he preferred to avoid the immediate consequences. This time, he remained where the truth would reach him. That does not erase your negligence, she said. I know. Nia nearly told him to stop again, but did not. What are investigators asking? That I cooperate and testify against Charles estate representatives and the remaining Sterling executives. Will you? Yes. If that testimony establishes your responsibility, you could face civil liability as you might lose everything. Ethan smiled faintly. I thought we established that the name wasn't everything. She disliked hearing her words returned without bitterness. You cannot remain chief executive, she said. I assume that. I am offering you a 12-month position as transition director, subject to investigator approval. You will have no independent financial authority. He looked surprised. Why? Because you understand Whitmore's projects, employees, and contracts. Removing you immediately would endanger the transition. That sounds like Vanessa. It sounds like business. And after 12 months? No promises. Ethan looked toward the portraits. What will the employees think? That your role changed after an acquisition. You aren't going to announce the pension documents. Federal investigators control disclosure. You could leak them. I asked that what your father would do. Yes. Nia met his eyes. I am not your father. No. He looked at her for several seconds. You're more dangerous. Her expression hardened. Because I have your company. Because you still care what power does to you. The answer followed her after he left. Nia's first months controlling Whitmore were brutal. She closed 2 unprofitable projects and laid off 93 employees. Carter and Crown provided severance, health coverage, and placement assistance, but the decision still caused pain. At one employee meeting, a man who had worked for Whitmore for 27 years stood and confronted her. You said this acquisition would save you. It saved most positions. Not my. Does that make you feel better? No. Then why should it make me feel better? It shouldn't. He stared at her. Nia continued, you have every right to be angry. I will not tell you this decision is good for you because it protects other jobs. It harms you. The only thing I can do is acknowledge that honestly and provide every transition resource we promised. The man's anger did not disappear. It was not supposed to. Leadership, Nia learned, did not mean convincing injured people that their pain served a greater good. Sometimes it meant remaining in the room while they correctly blamed you for choosing which loss the company would carry. The redevelopment plan began 6 months after acquisition. Whitmore's empty commercial properties became production spaces, shops, kitchens, and distribution centers for small businesses. Carter and Crown did not own the businesses. It supplied infrastructure and affordable leases. The model Nia created at 22 finally appeared in the neighborhoods it was designed to serve. The opening of the first center. Reporters crowded the entrance. Ethan stood with employees near the back. Nia took the stage without him. This project has often been described as a story about revenge, she told the crowd. It is not. Revenge asks how one person can be made to suffer. Ownership asks how many people can gain the power to build. Applause followed. The statement became a headline. That night, however, Nia remained alone inside her office, reading public comments demanding to know why Ethan was still employed. Some accused her of weakness. Others suggested she secretly remained in love with him. Nia closed the computer. The knock sounded. Daniel entered carrying 2 paper bags. You missed dinner, I forgot. You have an assistant whose entire job is preventing that. I gave her the evening off, then she has failed remotely. Daniel unpacked food. They ate at the conference table. After several minutes, he asked, why are you keeping Ethan? Vanessa recommended it. That I asked why you agreed. He is useful during the transition to true. You don't believe me. I believe the answer is incomplete. Nia put down her fork. If I fired him immediately, everyone would say it was revenge. And if no one were watching. She looked at him. That is the question. Nia. He deserves consequences. He lost his company and title. He is cooperating in a fraud investigation that may leave him financially liable. Consequences appear well represented. You think I'm punishing him. I think part of you wants him close enough to witness what you became. The observation hurt because it was true. I built all of this without him. I know I don't need him to see it. Then why does the possibility matter? Nia walked toward the window. The city spread below her, illuminated by thousands of lives she could not control. I wanted him to understand what he threw away. Daniel joined her but maintained his distance. And now he understands. Did that heal anything? No. Then perhaps the audience you spent 10 years imagining was never the one you needed. She turned toward him. Who was you? The room became silent. Daniel's voice softened. You don't need to keep proving that the woman outside that ballroom deserved a seat. She always did. Nia looked away before he could see tears forming. Her phone rang. It was Olivia. Nia, she said, breathless. Do not sign the final pension settlement. Why? I found another account. What account? One my father concealed through Whitmore's overseas subsidiary. The missing pension funds were not lost. Nia straightened. Where are they? Still under Sterling control. Does Ethan know? No. Are you certain? A pause followed. Oh, Olivia said. That's why you need to ask him before trusting anything he has told you. Nia looked through the glass wall, across the former Whitmore offices. Ethan stood alone beside a table covered in transition files. 10 years earlier, she trusted him because she loved him. Now hundreds of people's futures depended on whether she could determine if he was lying again. Nia picked up the pension folder. Tell me everything, she said. The hidden account contained $48 million. It had been opened through a Whitmore subsidiary registered in the Cayman Islands, then concealed beneath 3 holding companies controlled by Richard Sterling. Pension funds belonging to more than 1,000 workers had entered the account over 5 years. The money was never lost. It had been hidden. Olivia sat across from Nia, Daniel, and 2 forensic accountants inside Carter and Crown's executive conference room. She looked as though she had not slept. My father created the structure, she explained. Charles authorized the initial transfers, but I don't know whether he understood the final destination. Daniel reviewed a sequence of transaction records. Charles signed the subsidiary authorization. He signed dozens of documents my father prepared. That may explain his involvement, Daniel said. It does not eliminate it. Olivia nodded. I know. Nia examined the account history. A second Whitmore signature appeared beside several transfers. Ethan's. Did he know about this account? She asked. I don't know. Olivia replied. You said he didn't. I said he never mentioned it. That is different. Yes. Nia felt the old anger awakening. 10 years earlier, Ethan claimed he did not know Charles had removed her from the guest list. He did not know her name had been erased until the final presentation. He did not know his father accessed her files. Each failure came wrapped in ignorance. Eventually, refusing to know became a decision of its own. Daniel closed one of the files. We need to deliver this to federal investigators before Sterling learns Olivia copied it. They may freeze the account. Nia said, if the money has not moved. One accountant pointed toward the most recent entry. There was an attempted transfer yesterday. To where? Another holding company in Switzerland. The bank blocked it because the account was flagged during the Sterling investigation. Daniel stood. I am contacting the prosecutor. What happens to Olivia? Nia asked. Everyone looked at her. Olivia answered for herself. I signed 2 subsidiary documents. Did you understand their purpose? No. Nia's expression hardened. Olivia did not defend herself. I chose not to ask enough questions, she continued. That is not innocence. For a moment, Nia saw Ethan in the hotel garage. I had no choice. I didn't know why father handled it. Families like theirs train children to confuse obedience with virtue and ignorance with protection. Olivia seemed finally prepared to reject that lesson, even if doing so cost her freedom. Do you have independent counsel? Daniel asked. Yes, I call them now. Olivia gathered the documents but stopped before leaving. If Ethan knew, she said to Nia, what will you do? Nia looked toward the former Whitmore offices beyond the glass wall. What the evidence requires. That wasn't what I asked. It's the only answer I have. Olivia studied her. 4 years. I thought you returned because you wanted him to suffer. I returned because the acquisition made sense. Both things can be true. Nia did not respond. Olivia left. Daniel waited until the door Close. She's right. About what? You need to separate what Ethan deserves from what the evidence proves. I know you say that exactly like he does. Nia looked at him sharply. Daniel did not retreat. If he committed fraud, we refer it. If he acted negligently, we document it. If he knew nothing, we do not invent guilt because ignorance fits an old pattern. His signature is on the transfers. So is Olivia's. And she admitted responsibility. Admission is not evidence of intent. Nia turned toward the windows. I trusted him once, and he used that trust to erase me. Yes. If I trust him now and he is lying, workers could lose everything. Then do not trust him. Investigate him. What's the difference? Trust asks whether you believe the man. Investigation asks what the facts establish. Daniel placed the file in front of her. You built this company by learning that difference. Ethan arrived 30 minutes later. He entered alone and immediately noticed the forensic accountants. What happened? Nia placed the offshore account record on the table. Sit down. He read the first page while standing. The color left his face. Where did you get this? Olivia. He looked toward the signatures. What is this account? That's my question. Eve never seen the complete structure. Your signature appears 6 times. I signed subsidiary authorizations, authorizing transfers of pension money and authorizing temporary intercompany loans. Those loans moved retirement funds into sterling-controlled accounts. Ethan sat slowly. That isn't what Charles told me. What did he tell you? That Whitmore needed temporary liquidity to satisfy pension distributions during project delays. The money was supposed to return after Sterling released construction credit. Did you verify the destination? I reviewed summary reports. Prepared by whom? Sterling's accounting team. Did you contact the pension administrator? No. Did you read the underlying transfer instructions? His silence answered. Nia's anger rose. You signed away people's retirement money without reading where it went. I believed the accounting team had verified it. You believed what allowed you to avoid confronting your father. That's fair. This is not about fairness. I know. Stop saying that. The force of her voice silenced the room. Ethan closed the file. What do investigators need? The truth. Then here it is. Charles brought me the first authorization during an emergency board meeting. He said missing the transfer would trigger a default and cost hundreds of jobs. I asked why pension assets were involved. He told me the funds were not pension principal, only temporary reserves. And you believed him. Yes. After everything he had already done. Ethan looked at her. I wanted to believe him. The answer was quieter than an excuse. He was ill. Ethan continued. His judgment was deteriorating. For the first time in my life, he behaved as if he needed me. I confused being needed with being respected. Nia felt the sentence strike a memory Ethan once told her. I need your brain. She had also confused being needed with being valued. The similarity did not excuse him. But it made his weakness recognizable. You signed 5 more times. She said. Charles told me refusing would expose the company's financial condition and accelerate collapse. He used employees again. Yes. And you allowed it. Jay? Did you know Richard controlled the final account? No. Did you receive any money? No. Did Charles? I don't know. Did you ever suspect the transfers were fraudulent? Ethan hesitated. That hesitation changed the room. When? Nia asked. After the 4th authorization. What did you notice? The reserve statements did not match the balance sheet. What did you do? I confronted Charles. And he said Sterling managed the timing difference. Did you report it? No. Why? He threatened to close 2 projects and blame the defaults on me. Nia stood. So you did suspect. I suspected the accounting was improper. I did not know the money was being stolen. But you signed 2 more transfers. Nia walked toward the window, afraid that if she remained close, rage would choose her next words. 1,000 workers had spent years wondering whether their retirement savings were gone. Some postponed medical care. Others sold homes or delayed retirement. Ethan had not designed the fraud. He had made it possible by refusing to confront what he suspected. Why did you disclose the signatures during acquisition? Daniel asked. Because I knew investigators would eventually find them. That answer describes self-protection. Nia said. Ethan did not look away. I also knew concealing them would transfer the liability to Carter and Crown. I had already built one future on Nia's ignorance. I was not going to do it again. You want credit for telling half the truth? No. What do you want? To help recover the money. Even if cooperating incriminates you. Yes. You could face criminal charges. I understand. You could lose your remaining assets. Yes. Your career. Yes. Ethan looked toward the signatures. I spent most of my life protecting a name. The name protected nothing. Not the employees, my mother, Olivia, Nia, or me. If telling the truth destroys what remains of it, then at least it will finally be useful. No one spoke. Nia searched his face for performance. She remembered how convincing he appeared whenever promising that a future version of himself would repair the damage created by the present one. At this time, however, he was not asking for time, he was offering evidence. Write everything you remember, Daniel said. Dates, meetings, exact statements. Do not contact anyone connected to Sterling or Whitmore's former board. I kept records. Nia turned. What records? After the fourth transfer, I began copying every document Charles gave me. Where? In a private archive. You had evidence for years. I had fragments. And you never disclosed them? I gave part of the archive to investigators during acquisition due diligence. Part. Some files involved my mother's estate and unrelated family trusts. Nia's anger returned. Where is the complete archive? Ethan looked at her. I in the Whitmore family safe. The one containing the emerald necklace. Yes, the safe stood inside Margaret Whitmore's former home in Lake Forest. Ethan had not entered the property since his mother's funeral. Furniture remained beneath white covers. Dust softened the sunlight entering through tall windows. Nia followed him into a wood-paneled study while Daniel and federal investigators waited downstairs. You could have told them the combination, Nia said. The safe also requires a fingerprint. Convenient. I didn't design it. He pressed his hand against the scanner. The door opened. Inside were legal documents, several sealed boxes, and the narrow black case Nia recognized immediately. The emerald necklace. Ethan noticed her looking at it. My mother wrote you a letter. I told you I don't want the necklace. The letter isn't the necklace. Nia said nothing. Ethan removed 2 archive drives and handed them to her. These contain every board packet, transfer document, and email I preserved. Why keep them here? Charles searched company systems. He would never search anything belonging to my mother. Nia passed the drives to Daniel, who took them downstairs. Ethan remained by the open safe. You want the letter? Not at all right. He closed the safe. Nia watched him. What does it say? I never opened it. How do you know it's for me? Your name is on the envelope. He opened the safe again and removed a cream-colored envelope. Across the front, in careful handwriting, were the words. For Nia Carter. Nia accepted it reluctantly. Margaret had written the letter months before her death. Nia, I do not know whether I have the right to write to you. I suspect I do not. Silence, however, has already done enough harm in this family. I knew Charles objected to Ethan's relationship with you. I knew he believed your race, neighborhood, and family circumstances made you unsuitable for the future he designed for our son. I told myself that opposing Charles would make matters worse. That was the excuse I used throughout our marriage whenever courage threatened comfort. The necklace belonged to Ethan's grandmother, but I gave it to him after he told me about you. I hoped he would do what I never learned to do. Choose the person he loved over the family's expectations. When I saw you wearing it at the hotel, I believed he had chosen correctly. Then I heard the announcement that I watched my son become his father because I had taught him, through my own silence, that disobedience was more dangerous than cruelty. None of this asks you to forgive him. I want only to acknowledge that what happened was not a misunderstanding or merely a business decision. Charles did not consider a black woman from your background worthy of carrying our family's name. Ethan knew that and lacked the courage to challenge him. I also lacked that courage. I am sorry. The necklace is yours if you want it. Sell it, keep it, or discard it. It does not make you part of our family. You required no heirloom to become worthy of anything. Margaret Whitmore. Nia lowered the letter. Ethan stood near the window, looking outside. Did you know what she believed? Nia asked. Not until after her death. Her attorney summarized the letter without showing it to me. Why didn't you send it then? I thought contacting you would be another way of demanding space in your life. Nia folded the page. Your mother named what you refused to name. I know that racism. Just your father did not simply dislike my lack of credentials. Know that, and you knew that I knew enough that matters. Just 4 years. Nia had wondered whether she exaggerated that part of the betrayal. Ethan never used a racial insult. He praised her intelligence. He said he loved her. Yet he accepted a world in which she could provide the ideas but not appear beside them. Prejudice did not always announce itself through hatred. Sometimes it operated through what a person was willing to risk for one woman but not another. Why didn't you tell me then? She asked. Because saying it aloud would have required me to choose. And you chose anyway. Yes. He turned toward her. I chose them. The admission contained no qualification for the first time. Nia heard the apology he had been too cowardly to give 10 years earlier, not because he said he was sorry, but because he stopped describing betrayal as something that happened to him. Federal agents entered the study. Ethan surrendered the drives. Before leaving with them, he looked at Nia. I'll submit my resignation tonight. Investigators haven't charged you. That isn't the point. I know, she said. It isn't. He left without asking what she meant. The documents recovered from Margaret's safe exposed the entire scheme. Richard Sterling had redirected pension reserves into offshore accounts while presenting the transfers as temporary intercompany loans. Charles discovered the fraud after the fourth transaction but remained silent because Sterling threatened to withdraw the credit-sustaining Whitmore. Ethan suspected serious irregularities and continued signing. His cooperation allowed investigators to freeze the $48 million before it could be transferred. Most pension funds were eventually restored with interest through recovered assets and legal settlements. Richard Sterling received a lengthy prison sentence. Two former Whitmore executives pleaded guilty. Olivia avoided prosecution in exchange for full cooperation, repayment of assets inherited from her father, and testimony against him. She resigned from Sterling Capital and later established an independent organization teaching financial accountability to family business heirs. Ethan was not criminally charged. Investigators found no evidence that he received money or understood the complete fraud. However, civil regulators determined that he had breached his fiduciary responsibilities by approving transfers despite warning signs. He surrendered most of his remaining Whitmore assets to the Pension Recovery Fund and accepted a 5-year ban from serving as an executive or corporate director. Nia received his resignation the same day the agreement became final. It contained only 3 sentences. I accept full responsibility for the decisions that made my continued employment incompatible with Carter Urban's values. Thank you for protecting the workers I claim to be protecting. I expect nothing further from you. Vanessa read the letter. Conveniently dignified. You think he's performing? I think wealthy men often discover humility after every other strategy fails. Daniel stood near the conference table. That does not mean the humility is false. Vanessa looked at him. You sound sympathetic. I sound like an attorney trained to distinguish suspicion from evidence. Nia closed the letter. Accept the resignation. Vanessa nodded. What about the public statement? No mention of our former relationship. State that he resigned following the regulatory findings. Reporters will ask whether you forced him out. I will say his decisions made the outcome necessary. And if they ask whether you forgive him, that has nothing to do with the company. Vanessa smiled slightly. You finally sound like a chief executive. Nia did not consider it a compliment. Several months later, Carter Urban opened the final community enterprise center inside Whitmore's former headquarters. The lower floors now contained workshops, kitchens, studios, retailers, and offices for more than 100 locally owned companies. Upper floors housed Carter and Crown's Manufacturing Institute and an affordable legal clinic for entrepreneurs. The Whitmore name had been removed from the building. Nia did not replace it with her own. Above the entrance, a simple sign read, The Crown Center for Shared Enterprise. Denise attended the opening in a blue Carter and Crown suit. Evelyn wore her best hat and complained about every seam she had not sewn personally. Marcus, now the company's chief technology officer, spent most of the ceremony fixing a microphone no one had asked him to touch. Daniel stood beside Nia near the stage. You nervous? He asked. Eve addressed larger crowds. That wasn't my question. She looked toward the audience. Former Whitmore employees sat beside Carter and Crown workers. Alicia, the first woman to receive a job while wearing their prototype jacket, now directed the company's workforce program. Near the back stood Olivia. Ethan was not present. I thought he might come, Nia admitted. He declined the invitation. Why? He said this day shouldn't become a photograph of the two of you. Nia considered the answer. That may be the first intelligent public relations decision he has made. Daniel smiled. Music ended, and Nia approached the podium. When this project first existed, she began, it was not inside a corporate boardroom. It was written at a kitchen table covered with medical bills and school assignments. The room became quiet. 4 years. People described what happened afterward as a story about rejection. A rich man dumped a poor black girl. He took her work, chose a wealthier woman, and expected her to disappear. She paused. That happened. We should not soften it. Denise watched from the front row. But this center does not exist because rejection made me stronger. Pain is not a gift simply because someone survives it. Betrayal did not build Carter and Crown. People did. She looked toward Evelyn and Marcus. A tailor who offered her shop. A mother who refused to let poverty define her children's limits. A brother who saved every file. A professor who recognized an idea. A lawyer who protected it. Workers, customers, and investors who placed trust in something that did not yet exist. Daniel lowered his eyes. Success is often described as the best revenge. I disagree. If every achievement remains directed at the person who hurt us, that person still occupies the center of our lives. The audience remained silent. I did not return to destroy Ethan Whitmore. I returned because this community deserved the project I designed for it. I returned because workers deserved the truth. And I returned because ownership means more than having the power to take something away. It means deciding what should be built in its place. Applause began slowly before filling the atrium. Nia stepped away from the podium for the first time. Her story no longer felt attached to the ballroom where Ethan humiliated her. It belonged here. Ethan requested to see her once more. Nia almost refused. Then she agreed to meet at Bell's Corner Cafe, the place where she had spent countless mornings waiting for his messages. He arrived early and sat in the booth by the window. His clothing was simple. Without the Whitmore name attached to his position, he appeared younger in some ways and older in others. Nia sat opposite him. What are you doing now? She asked. I work for a non-profit helping former manufacturing workers access pension and employment services. Paid? Barely. Do you like it? I'm learning that liking the work is not the first question everyone gets to ask. Nia almost smiled. A server brought coffee. Ethan looked around the cafe. You used to work here. Yes. I came once. After closing, I know. Even their memories contained concealment. Ethan folded his hands. I won't take much time. Why did you ask to meet? To apologize without asking for anything. You've apologized before. I explained before. That isn't the same. Nia waited. I was ashamed, he said. Not of you, but of what loving you revealed about me. I knew my father was racist. I knew my world welcomed your intelligence while rejecting your presence. Instead of confronting that, I hid you. His voice remained steady. I used your work because I believed my access made me more capable of carrying it. I told myself I would reward you later. That was arrogance. Nia said nothing. I agreed to marry Olivia because I valued my inheritance, position, and father's approval more than the promise I made to you. I called it responsibility so I would not have to call it cowardice. He looked directly at her. What I did was not an accident caused by pressure. Pressure revealed my priorities. The words echoed Evelyn's warning from 10 years earlier. Pressure reveals structure. I am sorry, Ethan said. Not because you became successful. Not because you acquired the company. I am sorry for what I did to the woman who had no money, legal team, or power to make me regret it. Nia felt the old pain, but it no longer controlled the room. Thank you, she said. Do you forgive me? She considered the question. That hope entered his face before she continued. But forgiveness does not restore the relationship. I understand. Do you? I'm trying to. Nia looked through the window. Forgiveness means I no longer need your suffering to prove that mine mattered. It does not mean I trust you. It does not mean we return to who we were. We can't. No, I in another life. Ethan stopped. What? She asked. If I had chosen differently that night, do you think we would have stayed together? Once, Nia would have protected him with a comforting answer. Now she offered the truth. I don't know. We might have discovered other reasons to separate. But at least we would have had an honest life to judge. He nodded. That is fair. No. Nia replied gently. It's true. Those are not always the same thing. They finished their coffee. When Ethan left, he did not ask whether they might meet again. Nia watched him cross the street and disappear into the crowd. She felt no triumph and no desire to call him back. Only the quiet relief of closing a door without needing to slam it. That evening, Nia found Daniel standing on the Crown Center's rooftop terrace. Below them, lights illuminated workshops where several entrepreneurs were still working. You met Ethan. Daniel said. Apparently privacy is dead. He called me before contacting you. Why? To ask whether meeting you would cause legal complications. At least he finally consulted someone. Daniel smiled. How was it? He apologized. Properly? Yes. And I forgave him. Daniel looked toward the skyline. That's good. You don't sound convinced. I am deciding whether forgiveness includes dinner invitations. It does not. Excellent. Nia laughed. Daniel turned toward her. 4 years. A possibility had waited between them without making demands. He had never treated patience as a debt she would eventually be required to repay. What do you want, Nia? He asked. It was the same question he asked years earlier on the Detroit balcony. Back then, she answered with obligations. Expansion. Employment. Protection. This time, she allowed herself a different answer. Dinner. Daniel raised an eyebrow. With me? No, with the building. Clarification seems reasonable. Yes. With you. Is this a business dinner? No. Legal consultation. No. Community partnership. Daniel. He smiled. All right. Nia looked across the city. Success had not healed every wound. Wealth had not made life simple, and justice had not returned the years taken from her. But she no longer needed the past to become different before permitting herself a future. Years later, a group of young women gathered inside the Carter and Crown Training Institute. Most came from families without wealth or business connections. Some were immigrants. Some were single mothers. Several had ideas they were afraid to describe because the people around them had already called those ideas unrealistic. Nia stood before them wearing the first navy jacket Evelyn had created. The seams had been repaired many times. The lining was faded. One button never sat correctly. It was worth more to her than every designer garment in her closet. A young woman raised her hand. Carter, when did you know you were going to become successful? Nia smiled. I didn't. But you refused $200,000. You must have known your company would work. No. I was terrified. Then why refuse? Because the offer required me to agree that the work wasn't mine. Another student spoke. What if you had never become a millionaire? Nia considered the question. Then refusing would not become less valid. The students became quiet. Our culture often judges a person's earlier choices by the success that follows. People say I proved Ethan wrong by becoming wealthy. But if Carter and Crown had failed, he still would have been wrong to erase me. She touched the jacket's worn sleeve. Money did not make me worthy. Success did not transform me into someone he should have chosen. I possessed that worth when I was pouring coffee before sunrise, when my bank account contained $100, and when security stopped me outside a ballroom. The young women listened. Never build your life only to make someone regret losing you. Nia continued. If they remain the audience for everything you accomplish, they still control the stage outside the institute. Morning lights spread across the neighborhood, shops opened, machines started, workers entered buildings once abandoned by companies that considered the community unprofitable. On the wall behind Nia appeared the Carter and Crown emblem and a sentence Evelyn had insisted they place beneath it. If it fits your life, it belongs to you. Nia looked at the women before her. She did not see poor girls waiting to be rescued. She saw founders, designers, engineers, executives, and owners whose names had not yet reached the doors they would someday open. Ethan Whitmore had once believed Nia needed his world to make her ideas valuable. Years later, she did not return to ask that world for a seat. She built a larger table and this time, no woman's name was missing.